Um, hmm. Some sort of all-in-one PC. It's hard to say for sure. It does look like a Windows or a Linux PC. I have a photo of a well-dressed person there. I can't tell if it's a man or a woman. At first, because of the suit, I would think maybe it's a man, but it looks like there's some long hair back there. Maybe a chair. And then there's a painting of two anime women that are up there. But I've got a feeling, based on how this is, they're not anime women. They are characters within the game. Well, we know that she's probably the brunette. So who is this white-haired woman who is also attired in a cloak? As a matter of fact, she wears that cloak much the same way that Marianne wears her coat. So, let's get started. We're going to check the journal. I want to see some new profiles here. Marianne McCullough. Birth date, July 14th. She's a Cancer. She's 30 years old. She's 5'11". Formerly an architect. Currently an interior designer. She's Irish, and like Isabella, she's also Roman Catholic. She has a BA in architecture. She likes chocolate cats, classical arts, country music, karaoke, board games, video games, anime, and other obscure pop culture items, and yoga. Based on her likes, I actually like her a little more. She's always been very standoffish, but that's all right. She's always been seen in a professional context. Left in a dumpster as a baby. That's the hell of a start to life. Left in a dumpster as a baby, she was found by a peddler and spent most of her childhood roaming the countryside in a beat-up van. Her father taught her how to read, write, and pray, and though an unconventional life, it was all she knew. Child welfare and protection eventually caught on and required that she have a proper education. She was provided a scholarship at the St. Samanthan School for Young Ladies and was bullied for being a charity kid. She only had one friend and was mostly focused on her studies, intent on graduating and returning to her father, a shame that he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's soon after. Her work as an architect in Ireland lasted until the Irish economic crisis. She moved to England and after some time, Luxembourg in search of better career opportunities. So she has had a tough life of it. Quite a tough life of it. Alright, so we're not going to worry too much about the timelines, but let's take a look at the relationships and see where we're at with everybody. So, does not like Isabella. That's a shame. I like Isabella, but she was sadly kind of a flake during a lot of this because she was being haunted to death. She very much likes Hannah, which is good. She does not like Ashton. She actually likes Master Luke a little bit. That's a damn shame. Because we're going to try and get rid of that dude at some point in time. Alright. Let's get started. The numbers are so little on the top of my screen, and they glare at me with such intensity that I can just hear their accusations. I'm late for a night out with the girls. Yes, but I have a perfectly good excuse. Jeez. Considering that I didn't follow typical office hours, they really can't expect me to be able to just go as I please at 5:30 on the dot. The client is, first and foremost, my priority. I have to sit tight when my personal assistant Chris tells me we have a big one coming up, and that I shouldn't miss this one. He knows a lot more on the who's who and the what's what when it comes to these socialites, and I trust that judgment call. I really don't have time for rich people, their drama, and their politics. Except that they're your clients, yes. The sort who are born with silver spoons in their mouths and who are used to wagging their silver tongues about. I let him handle the negotiating with him, for the most part. Why else would I have hired him? But he told me I'd receive a message about it an hour ago.
Now, if only he has the full shilling when it comes to the time.
Come on, I have a social life too, you know. To an extent. Sort of. Pressing my head against the table, I try to stave off an oncoming headache when the notification for a new email pops up. It's Windows, I recognize that sound. All I'm expecting is a, "Hey, this looks like a good project I found. Go send them a design," or something like that. That's often how it goes. Even with these rich, jammy clients who've heard of me from their equally rich, jammy friends, I can't expect them to hire me right off the bat. Which is all well and good and reasonable. We figure out what they want, send them my portfolio, my drafts for their projects, my rates, and hope for the best. Subject. Forward, important client, please read from Chris Oak Parker at yoohoo.com to Marion McCullough Personal, M. Malconia 616 at xmail.com. This is a big client, Marianne. I'll babysit Baruthiel for you. Just please take this one project. I promise the person is huge in Luxburn. Mr. Parker, this is a formal request to secure the services of Marianne McCullough, hereafter called the designer, as authorized by Hannah Wright, hereinafter called the client, for interior design work at Ermengarde Mansion, Luxburn, LX18 0RF, United Kingdom. The client hopes to have the designer there on 21st October, Friday, with the time pending. That would explain why she would think that the house had already been purchased, you see. But as I open the mail to see that I've been requested by the client specifically, well, I certainly didn't expect that. And it's pretty straightforward, too. Anyone else would probably be excited. They would be working with the Hannah Wright. She's just one of those rich socialites that everyone loves to talk about, no matter how hard I try to tune such nonsense out. It would have been enough for me to reply in affirmative to the Chris and leave. To the Chris, that's right. He's like the Donald now, he's the Chris. But he's never pleaded for me to take a project before. We've worked with big personalities in the past, celebrities, bankers, and even a few politicians, and my PA had been indifferent about those. So the question bounced about my skull before I spy one of the email attachments. A newspaper clipping from the Luxburn Daily's Business News' business section, boasting the headline, Wright Enterprise donates £2.5 million to refuge. Certainly caused quite a stir back then. Yeah, it's a save the children kind of a thing. Yeah, with this money, the refuge can keep helping women, children, and victims of domestic abuse. Dosmetic abuse. Wonderful. Apparently, they'd invited some businessmen and socialites everywhere in the guise of it being some sort of big business announcement.
$2.5 million and an expensive-looking party to boot. These people sure know how to throw their money around.
Not that I should be so callous. They're going to do a lot of good and help a community with all those pounds. I, of all people, shouldn't criticize such acts, whether they were for show or not. At the very least, I know they'll be able to pay my rates. With the headline out of the way, however, I find myself staring at the picture that came along with the clipping. Because, wow, here I am expecting a sour old woman in a blazer and a skirt. But the woman that was plastered on the front page looked like she belongs on the front page of the entertainment section, or even, if I'm to be crass, as the pinup for glamour. Okay, I'll be real here. A men's magazine. She sure knows how to rock that dress. Wait. Her hair. Her eyes, her lips. She can't be her. And at the same time, she is her. Only several years older. She looks just like... No, come on, Mac. The world is full of pretty blondes. It's just a coincidence. With a shake of my head, I snap out of it and reach for my phone when it buzzes, nearly falling off my chair in the process. Who else would be on the other line but the very people waiting for me?
Oh, piss. I'm so sorry, Cam. I'm on my way.
That's what I say. Yet I still don't move from my chair, face flushed and heart racing. I can only stare until I can will myself to reply that yes, I'm accepting the assignment. And it takes even more time for me just to close the image, shut down the computer, and leave. Even then, it's already burned its image into my head, no matter how much I wish it would just disappear. It makes me eager for the alcohol and the company. It makes me eager for anything that can help me forget. It's a good thing that the nearest pub is just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. The Galway Shawl, as it's called by those who frequented the place, is the only decent Irish pub in this country. You can pretty much tell that someone's new if they call it by its official name, the Crawl Bar. My home away from home, ever since I've moved to Luxburn. Well, that is when I'm not cooped up in my condo and working anyway. It has good alcohol, good company, and thank God in St. Cecilia, good music. Crowd favorites like Bothy Noise, the High Wesleyan Men, and Second Fusion Orchestra are often played. Not to mention the singing. I love singing. Anyone could just break out into a drinking song, and the others in the pub were just as wonderful that they'd start singing along. And doing so while intoxicated is the best of ways to go about it. Hey, it's a win-win as long as I don't puke in the middle of the chorus, and as long as I can get home in one piece at the end of the day. And tonight is karaoke night. What better time than that to try and sing all my worries away? That's what my intoxicated brain tells me.
The ghost of guilt and sorrow remembers who I am. And in the prison of my heart, I was my only slave.
But drinking only reminds me of my home, and the thought of home makes me think of her.
But in the depths of my cold soul, I'll leave the burden and despair.
It makes me nauseous. It sickens me that the smallest reminder of her can cause me such grief.
I'll fight for what's worth fighting for. Forget the fear, forget the rest.
Of course, that might just be the booze. Any other day I would have scolded myself for drinking so much.
I lied to the Lord, I lied to myself, I lied to you and everyone I care, until there were no more lies to tell.
But I already have a client, and we'll be having our first little meet and greet in a few days.
Cowardice is easier than being brave, but at last I found the strength I lost to sing my love letter to you. 'Cause people can lie, but my lone heart beats true.
I want to at least enjoy this night, get over the hangover tomorrow, and return to being a prim and proper professional after.
That song was for Cam, our lucky bride-to-be. So give her a hand, Galway Shawl.
Considering the state I'm in, one can excuse my smug grin as cheers and applause rise among the pub's patrons, because, possibly off-key public singing aside, I feel like I'm on top of the world right now, and that's as good a reason as any to belt out in front of these strangers. With good drinks and good friends, there's nowhere else I'd rather be tonight. And I forget for a short while.
And that song was brought to you by Marianne McCullough, everyone! A round of applause!
That was so good. You rock, Marianne.
Judging by the ring, that Cam is the stunner in the red dress there.
Oh, please stop. You're just saying that.
You know neither of us can hold a tune, Marianne.
That would be Haruna.
A toast to our shameless drunk singer. May your drinks forever flow and your notes be ever lovely.
If anyone deserves a toast tonight, that's Cam. Finally sealed the deal after 3 years, eh?
Read 'em and weep, bitches.
Kamala's diamond engagement ring gleams as she holds it up for all the world to see. She has reasons to be proud. 3 years of living together and her boyfriend finally asked her the big question. Obviously, she said yes.
Don't get too attached to that ring or the one after, sweetie. I was wearing a wedding ring not so long ago, and look at where I am.
What a bitch.
But enough of me being a downer. Cheers to a happy engagement!
Of course, if something like Haruna's divorce were to happen, I'd be there for Cam. Just as Cam had been there for me, acting as more than my yoga instructor. I can't be happier than my friend right now.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Well, we'll both be there for Cam, won't we? Haruna and I. Haruna, it's been a real bad year for her ever since her divorce. She's such a nice person, even loaning me money to open a studio, and she didn't deserve what her husband had pulled. I'm happy that she's smiling again and pigging out like she used to. I think we've all missed our Japanese firecracker. We met in yoga class, something I joined to keep myself in shape and, well, honestly, so that I could make friends when I moved to Luxburn. Clearly, it worked like a charm. And it definitely didn't have anything to do with the fact that I brought along my lucky D20 die with me on that first day. No, sir. I love these girls so much.
What about you, Marianne? You're 30 years old and you still haven't got yourself a man.
And you guys know I have a very busy schedule. I don't have time for that.
That, and she clearly prefers women.
Oh, come on! That's a lame excuse and you know it! You need a man who'll take care of you and you need it now! Maybe some hunk who'll be your house hubby while you rake in the dough.
I'm quite capable of taking care of myself. Who needs a Mr. Right?
Wow, not Hana, that's for sure.
Hey, look at me. I'm Marian McCullough, a lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma, but I can't get myself a date.
Those are terrible stats. Cam is clearly passing familiar. Lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma. Ugh, that would make her dumb and unlikable. Well, she is kind of gruff. I mentioned druids and demons. Once! They don't even know the rules or understand what the numbers mean. And I certainly am not some sort of holy person. I'm a far cry from a miracle worker. And I barely have the willpower to fight off demons. Especially my own. Well, that's an important little bit of knowledge.
Actually, maybe she isn't looking for a Mr. Right, but a Mrs. Right.
Exactly.
Oh, my Marianne, we still love you even if you're in the closet.
That would explain some things. Haruna, you don't have a ring anymore. Maybe you two can be together and I don't have to worry about my best girls being alone.
What are you on about? There's nothing to explain.
But the more I deny, the louder they tease until the other people in the pub start to watch. Doesn't help at all when Haruna drapes her arm over my shoulders and leans in.
Will I be all yours then? Will you be making me feel like a woman?
I know that they're just kidding around, but this doesn't make me comfortable in the slightest. So when Kamala notices my silence, and Haruna sees the expression on my face, they stop. And when the awkward air settles over us, the rest of the pub goes back to whatever they were doing before the whole thing happened. They probably won't even remember it when they wake up with massive hangovers anyway.
Sorry.
Me too.
Hey, no hard feelings, right?
I raise my glass. They smile. We drink. There's no need to say more. We're all definitely too far drunk tonight. Eventually, the fun times end. It's a weekday after all. And with Haruna being a nurse, she still has to get ready for her next shift. Cam also has a loving fiancé waiting for her at home, and really doesn't have to make a fuss about having left some buns in the oven when she took off early. Really, I understand. I was the one who insisted, who was determined to get pissed drunk anyway. Moving to the bar, I sit, alone at last. Alone with a stranger. Mr. Right. I haven't seen him before. Obviously not a regular, and he hasn't said a word. He just sits there, savoring his drink. With his whiskey served neat in one hand and a lighter in the other, it doesn't seem like he's noticed me yet. And maybe I should go before he does look my way. Because he was pretty and blonde. Oh no. And those two things plus alcohol never did me any good. A thought too late. Judging by the way his flushed face and the dazed look in his eyes, he's as pissed drunk as I am. But whereas I feel like keeling over, he looks like he's ready to take the catwalk by storm. Really, he just has the air of one of those men who think they own the world.
Hello there, sexy. Please don't stand up on my account. I already like what I see. Fancy a drink? It'll be on me.
But then again, I might be pleasantly surprised if he proves me wrong.
Want some between the sheets? Sex on the beach? I'm talking cocktails, of course.
This guy's awful. Fat chance. But it doesn't matter. We both know how to play this game. And there are two different ways for the night to end. One thing or another is going to happen. The question is, what do I want to do?
Oh no, that's fine. I'd rather order some blue balls or some AMF if you don't mind.
He looks like he's about to say some witty retort, but stops himself and downs the rest of his whiskey. I order a mint julep. He gets another whiskey. And we start the customary small talk. Of course, the saying, "Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies," goes without saying. We ask nothing about each other, offering up falsehoods to establish a strenuous, fake connection between two strangers at a pub, if only to pass the time. Whiskey, as I've come to call him, is supposedly 21 years old, single, takes care of his sick mothers, and is a manager of some sort. Manager of what? I didn't care to listen to the details. Meanwhile, Mint, as he's come to call me, is 29 and I'm... What did I say I was again? Oh, yes. I told him I was a professional chocolate taster because, fuck it, if I'm going to lie about my job, I might as well make it fun. It's a pretty decent chat between two pretty drunk strangers. And maybe it's just me, but we might as fucking well expend the tiniest amount of effort in pretending there's something meaningful in this meeting. Would have been nice, too, if it was just left at that. But during a lull in the conversation, he brings it up.
You know, I've never been with a woman taller than me.
And to think, he might have been different from the rest.
Never have and never will, whiskey. Can we go back to the history of chocolates? Did you know that chocolate candy was introduced in 19th century England as a healthier alternative to alcohol?
St. Lucy was the most beautiful woman of her time. She had men come from the four corners of the world just to see the pure light in her exquisite green eyes. If she were so lucky, anyway.
No, enough of the history lesson. Come on, Mint. You know and I know what you came here for.
Though not every suitor was gallant, and she was no fool. She had known that sooner or later she wouldn't be able to defend her chastity.
Come on. There must be something that gets you going.
So she had taken out a knife and gouged out her own eyes.
There is something, but I don't think you can handle it.
Impressed with her devotion, God restored her eyes and made them more beautiful than before. He has a peculiar sense of humor, hasn't he? Because that only meant suitors kept going after Lucy, and she kept her eyes in a chalice to scare them away.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I can handle whatever it is.
Saint Lucy, help me. Help me turn away from sin. Help me with my own blindness.
My place isn't too far from here. I won't take care of you if it ends up being too much for you. And no one will be able to hear you if you try to scream. You sure you want to go down that road, pretty boy?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay. So, she took him home. I think Marianne likes the people that Marianne likes then. The best thing about having my condo so close to the pub is the ease of access. As long as I can still stand and walk, I can make it home. Maybe I'd need help from a kind neighbor or two to help me with the last leg if I've really gone overboard on the alcohol, but I always made it home. Sometimes with company. Of course, that always comes with complications, especially with the real clingy ones. But it isn't anything a good tip about stalkers to building security can't fix. I'm always nervous, though, even if this isn't the first time I've done this. And the first few minutes when we enter my room are the first agonizing minutes where I try not to panic. All right, Mac. So far, so good. Don't let him smell your fear under all that liquid courage. He'll leave sooner or later, and I'll never have to see him again, just like every other man before him. I'd like to say to myself that the men I've brought to my place were more scared than I was. Yet, there's no fear when I look into Whiskey's eyes, only delight. When he starts touching me, I don't even hesitate when I push him against the door. Roughness is to be expected. And as long as he sticks to the script, everything will go smoothly. We'll have our little tumble in the sheets. He'll leave. We'll forget about it. If somebody asked what I really wanted, I would have told them that I wanted a bed of roses, chocolate, music, and maybe an Irish castle. But all I really want is her, and that's never going to be a reality. That was my fault, of course, because I was afraid, because I was a coward. They would never hold a candle up to her. She was the light of my life, and I'd let her go. I can't even be bothered at the thought of her. Just the single thought of her makes my resolve to see this affair through waver.
Wait.
What is it now?
Yes, what is it now? So, this is wrong. We know that Luke likes it when ladies stand up to him. Oh. Or we could say nothing, never mind. And he'll shag us, and he'll feel good about it, and treat us like shit. So, the only option that might stop it probably won't make him like us more, but let's try it.
We're both drunk.
Yes. God damn it.
And
This is wrong. Don't you think it's a bit fucked up that we're about to have sex and we're just calling each other by the drinks that we had? How messed up are we?
Doll, shut up with the ethics and morality talk. It is seriously putting me out of the mood.
If you want to leave now, Whiskey, I understand. I mean, with how smashed you are, it'd probably be best for you to sleep the night unless you want to be mugged. But I won't stop you. And this isn't going to happen.
Bloody hell.
Achievement unlocked. Cock blocked. Of course he's annoyed at me for putting off our night of sexual congress. But no means no. And beyond spewing a few profanities under his breath, he surprisingly simmers down soon enough. I was worried for a moment that he might try to force something. Instead, he makes a show of fixing his suit, smoothing down his hair, before making himself comfortable on the nearest seat that he could find.
What are you doing then? You have a guest in your home. Put the damn kettle on. Dandelion tea if you have it. But I suppose all you have are those shitty tea bags from the store.
If it wasn't for the absurdity of this turn of events, I would have flipped him off for thinking I have no taste. But in the end, I just laugh. All I've got are cans of Korea ginseng and lemon balm, though. No dandelion. Without a second thought, I do wet the tea. That's 3 minutes to get a kettle to boil. 3 minutes where we say nothing to each other. I mean, what do you even say to the guy I was going to sleep with until I changed my mind? I doubt he's in the mood to talk about the influence of Troyes on Mallory. It's still unusual by the time that we're both seated on my bed with mugs of tea in hand.
Just so you know, whatever is going on right now is a lot stranger and fucked up than the one night stand.
We are two messed up individuals by your logic.
Everything is messed up, if you ask me. War, terrorism, famine, poverty, loved ones and loved lost. Oh, this whole world is a cesspool.
The dead air is telling me, when it fills the room once more, one would think that this is a perfect time to burst, to spill out whatever issues that made us the fucked up person we are today. And it is. But I guess some part of me would rather not put the weight of my problems on somebody else's shoulder. It wouldn't be fair to leave that to a person, when I don't even know if we'll see each other again. Sooner rather than later, we both pass out on my bed, mugs left forgotten on the floor. When I wake, Whiskey is already gone. A bottle of painkillers and a note on the table are the only evidence that I wasn't alone last night. Thanks for the tea, Marianne. Whiskey. Why does he know our name? Oh, you snooping bastard. Maybe it's on the thing of painkillers. Maybe he just got those out of the bathroom when he got up to pee. I don't even question where these are from or how he knew my real name. I'm just grateful for something to help with the hangover. Might as well. I have a job to do. Man. It isn't often that I think about drinking on the job, but after meeting with the Wrights yesterday, it really makes me want to break my self-imposed rules. Because first off, fucking damn whiskey was fucking damn Mr. Wright. And to top it all off, they had somehow forgotten to inform me that they didn't own the Ermengarde mansion yet when they hired me. What sort of person even does that?
Rich people.
I could do nothing but twiddle my thumbs at this hour. Twiddle my thumbs and wait for the go signal. It's not like I can accept other smaller projects. This is a big job, and I should be ready to start on it at any time. Not to mention that my PA practically begged me to be patient and wait this out. It was a hard decision to agree, but I did so in the end. Besides, I'm doing this for the Ermengarde mansion, not for anything or anyone else. I'd have a headache whatever I do anyway. What's going on, King Trash Panda? We're playing a creepy game. I'd go to the pub again, but seeing what happened a few days ago, I'd rather not end up in bed with another potential client. And it might be a huge leap in logic, but a library is the next best thing after a pub. Man, fuck those sinuses. Like, super painful or all stuffy? I have to go there anyway. I need more books for Dad. Plus, I also need to return the ones I borrowed last time. Finding a new book or two to read for myself while I have nothing to do isn't such a bad idea either. So on a Saturday morning, I find myself going to the only library in Luxburn to, hopefully, cool off. Notice it's like 3 doors down from the bar. That's rough, King Trash Panda. After returning an Urzuli and a poetry book by Henry of Podebrady, I asked the librarian about the several titles on my list, though I don't have much luck on that front. Dialogue with Death has already been snatched, and she bluntly said that she did not keep Our Mathematical Universe for someone who didn't return books on time. I make headway at least when I ask about Siege and Rendition of Havana by Jacopo de Pezuela. King Trash Panda, the thing that you want to use in that case is a pair of scissors. Little fingernail scissors are excellent at that. If you count her snarling and pointing at the history section as headway, that is. If you encounter a snarling librarian, folks, they may be rabid. The history section is devoid of other people except for myself and a redhead, though I'd wager a guess that Red's just passing by to get to the classical literature section. So many books, so little time. Scanning the books and seeing so many wonderful titles gives me great pleasure, and that's when I spot it.
Hello, sailor. Why don't you come to Mama?
It's not a naval battle book I was looking for. No, it's even better. History of Luxburn Architecture, first edition. The newly acquired History of Luxburn Architecture. It's a first edition, too. I know I just have to get it. I've been waiting to get my hands on this book for so long. The fact that there's only one copy proves to be a problem, though, when Red reaches for it the same time as I do.
I had this first, miss.
I can only stare her down when she refuses to let go of the book. Refusing to let go of it as well, I raise a brow at her in hopes that the fact that I was significantly taller than her would intimidate the girl. Even then, she refused with a rebellious look.
This isn't exactly light reading, miss. I mean, do you even know which architect was at the forefront of 18th century Irish architecture?
A beat. She blinks, and I can't help the smirk on my face, which is wiped off when she opens her mouth.
Edward Lovett Pierce.
who established the Palladian style through his work with Castletown House and the Irish Houses of Parliament.
Oh shit, you went up against a teacher and got schooled.
This bridge was destroyed in this year to delay French troops while under the regency of Mary of Guise.
This is not what I was expecting. Let's be honest, how many people would know these history facts? Aside from me, anyway.
Going right to the obscure ones, aren't you? Easy enough. Tullybody Old Bridge in Clackmannanshire, Scotland, on the January of 1560, if we want to be specific.
Suddenly, it's a game where we throw these history questions and facts at each other, back and forth in hushed tones unless we want to be thrown out of the library. After a while, it goes from some strange competition into this strange but friendly banter, if it could be called that. But as fun as it is, the exchange soon slows down until we're both grinning at how odd this whole scene is.
Marianne McCulloch, my desire for potatoes doesn't quite match what the stereotypes suggest.
Rebecca Gales, the Scots' supposed hatred for the English wasn't enough to stop me from teaching their little spawns.
By then, we'd forgotten about our little tug of war, although she still holds the book in her hands. I'd let go of it without realizing it when she answered my first question.
History teacher, then?
Got it in one.
No wonder you gave me a run for my money. Now, if we're talking about architecture, I'd blow you out of the water. You're from where? Luxburn Uni?
Oh no, just St. Goretti's.
Ah, yes, Saint Goretti. You'd think a school would choose a more appropriate saint to name themselves after, especially when they have very young students.
And I'm guessing you're an architect, if you're so confident about the subject.
Interior designer, Miss Gales.
Please, just call me Rebecca. You aren't one of my students, are you?
Marianne, then.
I could have said that I was an architect, but there's no point in explaining why I wasn't one anymore.
So, I've never seen you before. I'd like to think I've met every history aficionado in town.
I blame the rock I've been hiding under, of course. That, and I'm usually only here on the weekdays if time allows. Work often has me meeting clients on the weekends.
That must be interesting work.
It allows for some creative freedom, sure. But it's like working with children sometimes. Though you probably have it harder working with actual children. The hardest part is convincing them that your idea is their idea.
That sounds exciting.
It is!
But isn't that true for any workplace, though? We just cross our fingers and hope there aren't any man-children in charge of important things. Any big projects right now? I can't imagine that interior designing is a frequent thing.
I'm working on the Ermengarde mansion. Lucky me. That mansion. Intach. Wonderful. Breathtaking. I can't wait to start in it. Now that is beautiful architecture.
A pause. It looks like she wants to say something at my mention of the house. I'm not surprised. The place is certainly popular with the locals, especially with the urban legends attached to it. And the next second, though, she seems to think better of it and drops what she's about to say.
So, do you have a portfolio or anything I can take a look at? I'd love to see your designs. Maybe you have some on a tablet. I've met some designers before, and they're always going crazy over these virtual room apps or another.
A tablet? Please. Callicrates didn't need those silly iTabs when he built the Parthenon. I certainly don't need one to design a house.
The computer back at my place is all that I have. Why should I buy such an expensive gadget that will be outdated within the year when what I have is just as functional? Yes. Oh, designing the Parthenon on computers, the way that it was meant to be done. The traditional ways had a far more personal touch, in my opinion. Not to mention, those smartphones are awful tools of procrastination. What do you think, King Trash Panda? Do you spend too much time messing around with your phone? I can't even count on one hand the number of people I see going outside only to have their eyes glued to the things. And fuck touch screens. They're evil things that make typing, what should have been a simple task, harder.
I do have an online portfolio, if you'd like. I can...
I'm assuming that Marianne's fingernails are kind of long under those gloves. Speaking, or thinking of the devil, seems to have summoned it, because before I can even carry on, Rebecca's attention wanes as she pulls out her mobile. For what I can only assume is a call, she gives me an apologetic look before standing up and excusing herself. Off further into the aisles she goes for some privacy. Privacy. I do my best to give it to her as well, trying to tune her out.
Well, is something wrong? Lunch at the coffee house? Sure, I can make it. I'm not too far. I can be there in 10.
But with how quiet the surrounding is, she can't blame me if I overhear snippets of our conversation. When she returns with a sheepish look on her face, I know that our friendly chat has to be cut short.
Sorry, I have to go and meet with some friends.
It's fine. Totally fine. No need to even apologize.
About the book.
Her embarrassment increases twofold when she realizes she's still holding on to history of Luxburn architecture. I don't give her time to think about it as I put up a hand and shake my head. Fishing out a pen and paper from my bag along with one of my business cards, I hand them over to her.
You know, I'm busy with work, so I might not even be able to take a peek at it anytime soon. You can go ahead and have it, but you'll have to ring me up when you're returning it just so I can snag it right away. Deal?
She makes quick work, penning her number down and handing it back to me with a grin. We got digits.
Deal. Just message me during school hours, of course. You have a good day then.
You too.
With Rebecca gone, I'm left standing alone in the history section. Although my original plans were to simply sit down and read a good book, our little pop quiz, if you could call it that, made the time pass by without any of us even realizing it. It was fun, and I do believe I made a new friend. Good job, Mary Ann. Even with the talk of lunch, however, I don't feel like grabbing a bite to eat. There are still other books to be read here, and I'm hoping to find something that will help me while I work with the rights. Something like How to Deal with Arseholes Professionally 101, just in case. I've dealt with a lot of uppity, snooty, rich clients before, but it's still better to be safe than sorry. Because Luke Wright just takes the fucking cake, and he probably manages to eat it too. It seems like the world is conspiring to keep me from my me time, as my mobile vibrates in my pockets the moment I find something from the shelves of the classic literature section.
Marianne McCulloch, Charlie Rose Design speaking.
Look at that smartphone that she's got, with a touch screen.
Rose Cooper here, Miss McCullough. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time or anything. But I just wanted to check in and tell you that we've got the clear to hand over the documents. Madam Wright told us that we should forward the floor plans to you.
Already? How did they go through the process so fast? Surely there is so much red tape to even acquire the forms and the transferring of rights? No matter how rich the rights are, it shouldn't be this quick, right?
So, if I can just have your email, I'll be sending them your way.
I'd actually like a physical copy of the floor plans.
Oh, I suppose that's fine. I'm not at the office right now, but I can inform Miss Santos of your request.
I'll make sure to drop by the office after lunch if that's fine.
Not a problem. Right. Well, cheers.
Right. Cheers.
I don't know. I just don't. Is there some sort of deeper miscommunication when we last met? These things take time, and it's been, what, a day? Less than that, even. There isn't even a point in trying to make sense of these people who seem to be larger than life. It looks as if I'm on the clock starting today. I might as well eat. Grabbing some fish and chips from one of the street food stalls, I find a table to spend with a copy of the Marquis de Sade's The Crime of Love, since Rebecca left with the book I wanted. I've read this one before, along with the rest of his works. This would be the 18th time, in fact. But it's always nice to read through it again when I don't have the time to enjoy something new. Besides, when you're dealing with people so filthy rich that they just end up plain filthy, you need the good old Marquis's sound advice. Does this game know that the Marquis de Sade is where sadism comes from? Like the word for it?
La blessure se trouvant sans aucune sorte de conséquence.
The wound being without any consequence. Of course, it's folly to think that things have no consequence when everything actually does. Well, that's what he was just saying. The wounds have no consequence, so it's fine. Briar Realty Corporation's Luxburn branch isn't too far off from the city center, just a few blocks away, and I can easily eat and walk. I'd rather use this time to rest before I go into a flurry of activity. No doubt there'll be so much to do once we get hands-on with the mansion.
Still a lot better than working on another condo, at least.
Surely, no matter how much BRC and the old owners put into the restoration and preservation of the place, any big repairs would be superficial at most. I'm quite certain that, in their haste to sell the property, they did a rush job. It isn't an infrequent thing to do, despite of how much it's frowned upon. There'll be a lot of hidden issues that I'll need to weed out, and I have to make sure to find every single one of them, especially the more serious damages. Structural integrity is definitely on the top of the list that we'll have to consider. The building might look sturdy, but it is centuries old. That alone will likely pose a few problems here or there, put limitations on what we can do. Besides, despite how much I detest these rich snobs, they can pay rather handsomely, so long as I do an excellent job and do more than necessary. Those two things always make sure the referrals kept coming. I don't even have to hunt down projects for myself. When I do go up to BRC's office, I can't help but stop and stare when I enter the building. With the lunch hour closing, employees should have been back already, but they still aren't filtering through the doors. I get that it's a Saturday, and that people probably feel tired and lazy to be working on a weekend, but they're still on the clock, and not bumming around, wasting company time on extended lunch breaks and cigarette sessions. The office is spacious, with all these big corporations, and each person is given their own little space at what's usually a 2x2 meter cubicle. Today's the 22nd, I think? Yes, we befriended Marianne Gales. Isabella received the unexpected phone call from the Philippines. The Wrights got everything. We had the urgent phone call to meet and give the plans over. However, Isabella looked in a mirror, screamed when she saw the ghost. And so we're probably not going to be met here. But Rose is still alive at this point. There's a lot more empty chairs than there are actual people working at their desks. It reminds me far too much of my day at Porizkova Projects during the massive layoffs due to the economic crisis. But it isn't just that, though. Everything is as quiet as a grave. It's as if these people are merely ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, Santos comes in through the door, looking as if she's just seen one. Because she has. She looks at me wide-eyed, like a deer caught in the headlights, ready to bolt away at any moment. I'd ask, out of concern, but I feel it's not my position to do so. What if it's something personal? I'd simply be overstepping my boundaries. Really, it's none of my business.
I presume that Miss Cooper told you why I'm here, Miss Santos?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just got back from lunch, you know? But it won't take too long. Don't worry.
Of course it won't. This whole project has established itself to be a matter done in haste. I do hope it doesn't mean that people are being careless in their duties.
She flinches and looks like she doesn't quite know how to respond to that. Thankfully, instead of opening her mouth, she leads the way towards her station and goes to fetch the floor plans. Wow, we were just a super bitch to her. It won't take too long, as she said, but it does take a bit. Time spent to compose herself, most likely.
No, we usually just email these things.
I prefer the real thing.
Not that you would know. You probably have your nose stuck in front of a smartphone when you're not working, and even when you should be working, playing those mindless addictive games. Hey! As somebody playing a mindless addictive game, I take umbrage at that. I don't know. Are Irish people usually write bitches to other people? That doesn't sound right. And I definitely wish Chris would stop playing that Batcat thingy during work hours, too.
I know what you mean. Digital painting is nice, but nothing beats the smell of real paint. Not that I go and smell paint like a crazy person, but, you know, the real thing is different.
Wait, What?
Yes, nothing is quite like the real thing.
Checking out the floor plans, I see that I'll have a lot going for me. Now I know how Ray felt when he found the Central Park West building floor plans from that one movie. Wow. Okay, so now we've got a Ghostbusters reference in here. But this is interesting. Let's take a look at this. We've never seen what the floor plans to this place look like. It's in the ground floor. We've got the porch and the foyer. And so the ballroom was directly behind it, okay? The dining hall was off to the left, and then there's a kitchen. And interestingly enough, there's a gallery. And then, yeah, it's a hall of some sort, and it looks like servants' quarters. And then there's a hallway the other way, which leads down to a basement. That's interesting, because the wine cellar must not be part of the basement. And then the parlor was off to the right. How strange that the restrooms are almost like a public building, right? Like there's a little vestibule, and then there's a hallway, and then those hallways both lead to individual restrooms. Huh. Upstairs, we have a surfeit of balconies, bedrooms, a study, a theater. Wow. The master bedroom, conference rooms, and then it looks like a sitting room there, the quarters. And we've got a couple of stairwells that go up to the attics, probably servants' quarters. How strange that there was a conference room and a theater. This is why I became an architect in the first place. Jacobean style at its finest. It's a thing of beauty. Look at those gorgeous rooms, the delicate harmony between the empty spaces. And speaking of empty spaces, there's something rather odd about these. Well, not in the least of which is you're missing the basement floor.
I feel a bit silly saying it out loud because I've never lived in a big house, let alone a mansion. But during the tour, I had the distinct impression that the rooms were bigger. Maybe the scale is wrong? It's not much of a problem, and it is an old house.
There had been little details here or there that I would have liked to have addressed during the open house, too. But it was all forgotten in the wake of Miss Santos's incident and the trouble with ownership. The wine cellar is going to be a problem. I shudder to think of what sort of repairs they did to the place. There might have been things that were swept under the rug, pushed to the dark corner of the rooms and hidden away in barrels. Water damage could have been covered up. There had been floods due to heavy rains in West England just last year, after all, and if there's any sort of damage to the house's foundation, that's going to be a lot of work. I was not able to look at the attic as well. For all I know, a whole family of vermin could have made their nests there. Working with pest control is always the worst. The sheer size of this place is staggering, even if I did just say it was a lot smaller than I thought. It might just be biting off more than I can chew, but who doesn't like a good challenge? First things first, I'll have to...
So, do you want a coffee? The one from the staff room is pretty decent.
There's really no need. I'm sure you have rules against it.
Rules against bringing someone coffee? That's ridiculous. And even if there were regulations against it, nobody's really here to tell Sir John. I've already brought 2 mugs, and I'm not going to drink them on my own. Come on.
I have to stamp down on my annoyance at being distracted. Seeing the girl, the young woman though, it looks like she has a lot on her mind. If babbling is her way of dealing with stray thoughts, I'm not really the one she should be babbling to. How should I respond? Should we turn the mega bitch up and say I don't have time for this, or should I say, do you have something to say? Let's talk to her. I'm tired of being the mega bitch here. Oh, there we go. We've improved our relationship a little bit after she damaged it terribly by freaking the hell out. I give her time to speak up. But when she just stares, I clear my throat.
Yes? You have something to say?
As embarrassment creeps up on her face, I snatch one of the coffees from her and take a sip. Too hot.
Just thinking and speaking off the record, it must be fun what you do. You go to people's houses and you make them, well, pretty. You're sharing your art with them.
It's a little bit more complex than that. But if you put it that way, it is fun. I wouldn't have done it for 7 years if it wasn't a little bit fun, I guess.
These big clients always have paintings in their homes. Do you have a supplier for art pieces?
I didn't expect to hear such a question from her, seeing how well she handled herself yesterday. I didn't doubt, then, why she was assigned to an important sale like the Ermengarde mansion despite the little accident she had. Now, she just looks too young, too nervous, and unsure of herself, although her enthusiasm must make up for that in spades. In fact, I wouldn't have believed it if she'd introduced herself the way that she had at the moment. Why, watching her now, she actually looks like she should still be in college. Acts a bit like it, too, when I think about it. I thought she was a teen slumming it out in the mansion when I first saw her there, lying on the ground. Surprise, surprise, she turned out to be one of the estate agents handling the property. I don't even know what to make of that whole meltdown that happened with that strange document. If I were the client, I would have been very upset. She'd be in hot water for it.
Clients usually support artists of their own choice. If they don't, I'm always happy to refer those that I know.
That's cool.
They're very picky. I don't think a hobbyist will have an easy time getting their work sold.
Hey, I'll have you know I was a student of the fine arts.
And yet here you are, selling property. Maybe you weren't a very fine student of the arts.
Nope, we can't seem to resist being a mega bitch. Maybe I took that a bit too far. She bites her cheek and looks like she's barely holding herself
It's
back.
not like I had a choice.
She mutters it under her breath. I barely even hear it. But the hurt is there, and it makes one wonder what brought it on. Although, it is understandable. If her reason's what I think it is, very few people make it big in the art world. I can see why she'd be upset about it with that enthusiasm. I didn't have a choice when I left Ireland. It was that or years of unemployment. The recession and the toll it took in the construction industry was out of anyone's control. I don't know what choice she wasn't able to make, whether it was about her art or something else. But the world isn't a fair place, and the sooner she accepts it, the better. Still, with that forlorn look on her face, I can't help but sigh. The girl reminds me far too much of myself when I was younger. Is that why you're being mean to her?
Well, if you're thinking of commissioning your paintings, I'll have to see your work first.
Oh, it's not... I didn't mean it like that. I don't have any paintings.
Really? You sounded a lot like you still did art or want to. Now I'm starting to worry that you might just like the smell of paint.
I'm not a paint huffer, sheesh.
Well, King Trash Panda, I could see where you might be irritated, but as a younger, dumber version of yourself, couldn't you have used some empathy?
I just mean I don't make much anymore. I don't really have the time for it. The tools and materials aren't exactly cheap either.
Everything has a price. It sounds like you're making excuses for something you're presumably passionate about. If you really want to practice art, a little out of your wallet isn't much.
It's not that simple.
It's not. Life's simple. People just like to make it complex. Speaking off the record, I have some advice for you, kid. Either go for what you want, or stop thinking about it when you have something else. That is unless you enjoy making yourself miserable, then by all means.
That's a very Buddhist way of looking at things.
You know, if you wanted to look at the floor plans without me bothering you, you could have just said so.
And this exchange increased our relationship.
Would you have left me alone?
We'll never know now, will we?
Whoops. Accidentally bumped the monitor there. A strained air settles in the room afterwards. It doesn't help that she doesn't immediately leave, as she'd just said, lingering awkwardly by the door with that downcast expression. It's clear that there's more she means to say, perhaps even to defend herself in her choices in life, or is she expecting me to dish out more of that advice? It's an awkward affair, and I choose to hightail it out of the realty office as quick as I can. Though I'm able to keep myself professional at all times, it doesn't mean I like it. And seeing that most of the day has already gone by before I realized it, I choose to head back to my flat instead, despite today being a Saturday. No fun, but at least this way I can definitely avoid an altogether unpleasant encounter. Considering how much I'll be seeing whiskey in the near future, I have a feeling I'll need all the rest the weekend can give me. For the first time in a long time, excited as I am to work on the mansion, I cannot wait to be over and done with this project. Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before the last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure what they would want: high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types. Based from experience, at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself before I wreck myself. Make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. It makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm saved from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. The Wrights lived at the very top, the penthouse, the creme de la creme when it comes to condominium and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump so many hoops and so many security checks just to secure a key card. Not only because of building management, but because of the Wrights' personal security. Sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime, not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil, the elevator door opens and I'm greeted by none other than Whiskey's not-so-little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting, but I'm here now and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security, and only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
Oh, it wasn't tea for us.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off toward the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups, and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that the words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Yes, it's a ginger German. It's fine. Actually, if I understand it right, it is a gay ginger German with a husband. And he does not like the sir very much. He much prefers the missus, because she is kind. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes, or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. Mein Gott, indeed. Mein Gott in Himmel. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spill tea all over my lap in surprise, and I look up, expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak up about it, because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I'm not normally this nosy. So, should we go check it out? Or should we continue waiting? I think we're going to continue waiting. It's not our business. Right, exactly. Super rude. R-O-O-D, rude. I have no business with it. These rich people usually value their privacy above all else, after all. Unless, of course, they're posting pictures on social media or bragging about what good people they are for allowing themselves to be interviewed for some magazine. And then again, the whole reason I'm in this mess is because I don't give two shits about what goes on with people like them. And I'm not going to get caught snooping around, and I'll be accused of some imagined wrongdoing. I'm not going to be some busybody detective wannabe and run off to investigate whatever that was. It's probably just something mundane anyway, like a lamp falling over. I'm just going to sit here and wait for Mrs. Wright, with my tea, in complete silence.
Could I at least put the telly on?
I don't really expect him to answer. If he hadn't heard the crash, I doubt he would have heard me.
As long as you don't watch some silly soap opera. The LBC News would be fine. The William Walker show is on too, if you prefer that. Not that I watch it, but my husband does. The remote is under the coffee table.
Oh, sure. Maybe I'll be lucky and catch the doc on. I heard they're having reruns of the classics, and I want to see the second meet sixth in Spain. If not, just the news then.
The doc must mean the doctor. You know who we're talking about, right?
Thank you. I'll let you get on with your cooking now.
Ack. Stop it, background crap. I don't want to update any of that stuff. Did he just ignore the crash a while ago then? Whatever. Fetching the remote, I turned the TV on in hopes of filling the silence. Trying to anyway, because the thing won't turn on. And it doesn't that make the silence more awkward. I know I might not be the best with tech, but I'm sure I can work a simple television remote.
Batteries must be dead.
Uh-oh. It says, help me. And she's blonde. There's blood everywhere. Help me, it says in red. I look at my own hands and find them clean, yet I can see my grisly reflection gaping back at me. And though there's nothing staining my skin, I can feel the sticky and warm feeling of blood dripping down my cheeks. I should be worried. Instead, I feel my attention drawn towards her. Her beautiful blonde hair, her soft lips with skin so fair and swaying hips. I want nothing more than to hold her, to plant my lips on her neck and run my fingers through her hair. She laughs and smiles when she looks at me, but where are her eyes? Temptation is gone in an instant, and I recoil, horrified at this reflection I'm seeing, only to back into something, or rather someone. Mrs. Wright stands there, twirling a lock of her blonde hair, a soft smile on her lips, and a hand on her hip. I almost back away, but I ground myself and remind myself that this is my client, and whatever I just saw, well, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that perhaps I'm going a bit daft. It would be preferable, of course, to think that it was all a trick of the light or the makings of an overactive imagination.
Good morning, Mrs. Wright. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Have you been standing there long?
No, I just came down and saw you were having a hard time with the telly. We must have forgotten to change the batteries. Are you all right, dear? You're looking a bit pale. Haven't you had breakfast yet?
No, I'm fine. I had breakfast already, Mrs. Wright. I just need...
Well then, you mustn't have had enough breakfast. I'm all for a good diet, but that's the most important meal of the day. Johans is cooking up pancakes. Pancakes will make anyone feel better, he always says. We can sit down and tuck in. You'll feel right as rain once we get some fluffy, syrupy goodness in you. And are you sure you're fine, Marianne? You're shaking.
Looking down at my hands, I can see them trembling. Really? Just because she looks so much like her, I'm becoming a damn train wreck. I've been seeing her in my dreams and hearing her voice since I met Mrs. Wright at the mansion. With so many blondes in the world, what was different with her? I don't know. It could be. It certainly is large enough and ostentatious enough to be. Let's just say that we remembered something. We don't want to be unprofessional and say that perhaps we're not feeling well.
I just remembered something, that's all. It's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, improved our relationship. Wonderful.
Are you sure? I am all ears if there is something bothering you.
Because she does want to be friends. She's starved for actual human
I
contact.
don't mind a good story, and I don't want it to affect your work performance.
Gossipy wagon, isn't she? She should just leave you alone. It's not like you need her.
You don't have to worry about that, Mrs. Wright. I say business stays business, and anything else can stay in the doghouse until I'm done with work.
You just have to bear through it, don't I? If I tell her that I'm hearing voices, that'd be a fast track straight to the nut house. What else can I do? Saint Dymphna, help me lest I become like her father Damon, insane at the thought of a lost love and mad in pursuit of another.
Shall we talk about your work then?
If you'd like. It's on your time, after all.
I've been told many good things about you, and I've seen some of your work before. Others speak very highly of your work etiquette. Yet I've never heard of you before. Not even a whisper of the McCullough name.
Well, I've only been in Luxbourne for 4 years. Tried to make it big in London for nearly 3 years before, and I've only been working these high-quality projects for the past year.
I stick straight to the point. It's best to be brief when talking to the clients after all. Keep it clean-cut as much as possible. Yet, at the same time, I have to make it engaging so it doesn't look like I don't want to talk to
I
them.
imagine it hasn't been easy. I can't see why you've moved from London to Luxbourne, though.
Job vacancies were fewer at the time, and I had a lot of competition in London. Let's not even talk about the living costs there. But I'm glad I moved here, even if it hadn't been smooth sailing. If I had it easy, I probably wouldn't be working projects like these.
Why even bother explaining to her? She won't understand. She's practically born with a silver spoon in her mouth. The woman could probably snap her fingers and have servants attending to her beck and call.
She does look the part of a spoiled heiress, doesn't she? It would be a relief if she's just that. Something that's different from Mrs. Wright and her. Before she can get another word in, words that may have proven me wrong or right, she looks up at the loft with a fond expression on her face. With just a simple glance, she can put so much love that I feel a tad bit jealous of whomever holds it.
Good morning, Luke, darling.
Good morning, ladies. What a wonderful morning it is that I wake up to such a beautiful sight. I do hope you two are getting along. I smell pancakes. I do hope you two are considering a diet just so I can have them all to myself.
Did he call us fat to get pancakes? We're eating pancakes. Seriously, he does look like Draco Malfoy. It's just like crazy ridiculous.
Don't be a pig, Luke. You eat all of those and you might stop fitting into your tight suits.
What? I'm not a pig. You don't think I'm a pig, do you, Marianne?
I think you're a drunk, Whiskey. With his saucy smile and playful wink, I can't help but think, you are a bit of a pig, Whiskey.
I don't know, Mr. Wright. I'm an interior designer, not a zoologist.
I'm an interior designer. I don't know, Captain. I'm an interior designer, not a zoologist.
The only styles she must be familiar with are statement of works.
Oh, there we go.
Well, don't be a bore. You two might not be in a rush, but I'm going to go ahead and feast.
If you dawdle too long, he'll hog all the syrup.
Rich people are so eccentric.
Come on then. We can discuss business over food.
There's no denying the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it's too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be terribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly. And a bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colorful arrangement. If this was brunch with friends, I would gladly have helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I just accepted a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables?
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Man, she had to sneak in that bitchy, there won't be any problems with you actually owning the place before you hire me bit, right? Good night.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
I stop. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I'd have words. This isn't the time and place for it, however. Instead, I use this brief pause to pull out the floor plans that I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
Ah, yes, the quarters.
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts.
Actually, that's not true. That is a sitting room that also would have been used for a nursery when the children were young.
Used, apparently, for the ladies in waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde. Which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
It is not
Well,
indeed.
we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit.
He won't fit. Not to mention, he and his husband would have to walk through their bedroom in order to get
You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I mean, you would think, right? There's literally no closet in there. Everything would have to be bureaus.
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Actually, that's not true. As you look through here, there's not one effing closet.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet.
That's just barely more than half, Luke.
Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
Oh. So, Rochelle and her baby. Which, Rochelle is Mrs. Wright's best friend. The baby is Probably Luke's. That's a sore subject.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
That's an interesting point. There was an office. We met in it downstairs, but it's not showing it to us on the floor plan.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
That would be a terrible place for a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
We can build an outbuilding for him.
What about that room? Right there, in the northeast corner.
Oh, the basement.
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, northeast. That's not... How is that the northeast corner? I suppose that could be the northeast corner if this direction was north. That means that the porch opens to the west and the garden and ballroom are to the east. Actually, that makes an awful lot of sense. You wouldn't use the ballroom during the day, and you wouldn't want the light slanting in the evening, blinding all your guests.
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in.
I don't think he wants to, spend a room with, 3 other
It'd
people.
be convenient, so they don't have to make the trip from Luxborn to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
I just noticed that in the house here, Luke's got a giant painting of a glass of wine, that alcoholic.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless.
Aww.
He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too, and I'd dance, and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano? I can't imagine it. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright said so said otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theater, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables.
Well, that sounds fair to me.
That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Yeah. Mrs. Wright has her points, though I didn't really want to butt into the spat of a husband and wife. Uh-oh. Well, judging by his expression, I've said the wrong thing. Yes, Luke, small negative. Hannah, very high. Well, that's fine. I like her better anyway. But with the way the two were looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinion.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
See, a garage isn't architecturally feasible, and it isn't going to be financially sound as well. We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Do you really think that she's thinking of imaginary numbers? She used to be a finance manager. She worked her way up from the mailroom in her own company and has a master's in business administration and majors in accounting. So, Luke, about those imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough costs of these things by now, love. Masters in business administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
That catches my attention more than anything. It sounds more unbelievable than Whiskey playing the piano. She really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Luxborn U, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know.
Well, Draco Malfoy is making the world's weakest fist right now. I swear it looks like he's got his thumb tucked inside his fingers, which is a great way to get your thumb broken.
We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief.
Like, I feel bad for Marianne, but she's just so mean all the time. Like, oh, I did all these things. Well, that doesn't sound like you. Where did you go to school? Jeez.
But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I? Riding to the Ermengarde mansion in their rice is an awkward affair. That's a Rolls Royce, by the way. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple's spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them starting at each other any time. Nobody's saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells the valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment, I think that he might start. But instead, he just stays quiet, and so too do the rest of us. In the end, the sufferable silence stays. I've never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up to the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride, and I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze and wonder at it every time I see it. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I can already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
All right, Johans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Holy shit.
Well, you are not driving a car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating.
I'd like to point out that Johan there is going to have to wait while I sneeze 1 second. The Johan there is an MD. He was a doctor.
Go, mush.
Go, mush. Someday I'd like to ask how Johannes can even stand and tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employer, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll only be working with him during the duration. During the duration, really? That's how that works, huh? During the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday, I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight is far too alien and rare. There'd been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item on the agenda would be the grand staircase. Ho, 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 the grand staircase indeed. It seemed sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There's no obvious marks of damage, no wear and tear, probably retreaded during the renovation. Peeking under the grand carpet, the wood is properly installed with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum, though. Structural conditions, from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape, and the handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. I can't look much more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand. Again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them, there's a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. And if anyone were to see them like this, there's little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course, and I want a garden full of them. Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house.
I'm sure daffodils have some special meaning for Luke. I dread the moment that we'll wind up playing him. Since we seem to be going in order, he will probably be the last of the people that we play.
I'll just be around here downstairs if anybody needs me.
I actually think that the next person after Marianne will probably be Rebecca.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere.
You can see that the art's been recycled because right under her shoulder, or under her elbow there, is a vase full of daffodils.
I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Who doesn't like flowers? I like flowers quite a lot. They make me happy when I see them. And daffodils, least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs. You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes, without even asking if I need her here, I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that has both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I run about the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. Mr. Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor, and I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure, but on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first, if I want to. So we have an option to go stick around on the ground floor where whiskey is. I don't think so. Or the first floor, which is a very British way of saying the first floor above the ground. Let's go upstairs. I've already seen enough of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that's just a convenient excuse. I just don't want to be in the same room as whiskey anytime soon. So I might as well just go upstairs first. The banisters on the grand staircase's landing are solid and at a proper height. Any lower, and they'd be trouble. There's a small catch on the carpet, though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be all right. Huh. Do you remember that part where you came in and Isabella was sprawled upon the ground? And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the last Lady and Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be until Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. By a witch of all things, from what I've read. You'd think the historians of this place would be a lot more scrutinizing of filtering stuff out like that. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. The entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and her beloved... Looking at this mosaic, it's not too much of a stretch in the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. It can easily be assumed as such, if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. But what can I do about it? Walking into the east wing, I try to go into the theater, but I'm met with an obstacle. And that obstacle is locked doors. 2 doors, 2, and both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated. Would be if I hadn't already snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. What with Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats would have to be reupholstered if they're to be at all comfortable, and the walls will have to be covered in dark material, paint, wallpaper, or install wall-to-wall carpeting. Could also use curtains. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Makes me wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Her husband, on the other hand? I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of my notation and planning, I don't even realize that I'm not alone until I am caught standing in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she grows quiet and glances out the window, out toward the vast expanse that surrounded what would be their house, their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean, not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
The key word is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what would change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe she'd still be with me.
You must have been quite the pair, Mrs. Wright.
Why not, right? We can pay her a compliment. She seems to be very much in love. Must have been the right choice. We just maxed it out.
Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I like the way her eyes crinkled? Or how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first.
Father has good taste.
Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him.
Listen to your daddy.
That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact that I went to an all-girls boarding school, so Father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much. That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway. Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't.
Oh, so Mrs. Wright just dropped the I used to date ladies bomb.
But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
That takes me by surprise a lot more than by the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this? Nothing against them, because that's their thing, though the nuns and the priests would say otherwise. Although wasn't she worried about the implications, the rumors that would have arisen about her dating another of the same sex? Especially someone with her social status.
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want.
Guess Mrs. Wright likes who Mrs. Wright likes.
And when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me had once been with another woman? I can feel my cheeks heat up a bit, and I panic, thinking they might be red enough for Mrs. Wright to notice. I can't tell, though a coy smile graces her lips. She knows she's pretty and flusters people.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and, what do they call it now? Parkour. And also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth. But I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her. So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion. But he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off. He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
She laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a small smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect.
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing, and I move on, alone with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know exactly what I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has finally thrown me through a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully it isn't that. Not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, the conscience, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now. Though if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. She's very dismissive of these voices that she's hearing in her head. I think I would be more concerned than she is. But I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet and the rest of the world just follows. Though my feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo away, but when I open them, well, I don't feel any less sick because of the sight that greets me. Blood dripped from the walls and the ceiling, pooling downwards and seeping into the curtains and the carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt. The rational part of my head is telling me to flee. And I would have gladly done as it asked if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on. I have something to show you.
I could have ignored it. Would have ignored it. If only I heard it in my head. But I swear that this time it's coming from one of the rooms. Much further into the study. And I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. I don't even think as I follow the sound of her voice. Lorraine. Lovely Amanda Lorraine. She was my friend, the only one I had at St. Samthane's. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down at me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except for her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve. Why I gotta teach that butterface a lesson?
Wait, no, lass! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, through my highs and lows. Having her as a friend made being in a strange school, away from my father, all the more tolerable. She saw this poor, helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else, and being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave. so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. In the darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan, offering a helping hand. And perhaps I had been too selfish to return the favor.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then.
That's not what I mean.
I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry, it's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her. Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend.
She's gonna go fart in her room. That's a classy friend right there. That's how you know that somebody really loves you. If they'll go fart in the room of your enemy.
I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tumblers.
Because when she told me that she loved me, I couldn't admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. It was wrong. I was taught that way. Husband and wife, when man and woman. Unclean, impure. I prayed for her and I, for our sins and for salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. It must have been like a slap in the face for her. But life had gotten in the way. Exams, which were trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship for my father. I told myself I would apologize to her when those were over, that I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset. I get that. I thought I had the time to make things right, but...
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th-year dead. Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
They told us that it was an accident. That was the official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me.
Maeve had a hoot and I kicked the bucket, didn't she? Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had, though she didn't say which Lorraine.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck here in a trance. In the mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then, I feel bile rise up in my throat as her clean image warps into how she looked when they found her dead, lying on the cold, hard ground. Good Saint Dymphna, great wonder worker in every affliction of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? Looking everywhere but at her, I hope and pray that it's enough will that whatever this is will go away. It doesn't even immediately register in my head that I can just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
This isn't real. You're not. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens, and I can feel my heart being torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. The least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate-filled eyes. An unnatural smile stretches across her face, and I can only see malice in it. Then she lunges as the mirror ripples around her form, the glass parting like the water's surface for her. She grips my shoulders, and I can feel her nails dig deep, sharp even through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are. You're coming with me.
Whoops. Alright, A and D are awkward-ass keys to try and hit on the keyboard. Let's try it again. Why won't you love me? Apologies spilled through my lips as tears cloud my vision. But I won't give in to this madness. With every bit of strength I have left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and threatens to choke me. And that's the thing, right? The achievement thing. The QuickTime events have absolutely no bearing on this game. None. They only ever take you to a dead end, and that's it. I hate that. I endure. I escape. And without turning back, I stumble back out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall to steady me, I hobbled as fast as I can away from the study, away from that mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm freed from the madness, it seems, as running out into the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on Lorraine. Again. I have no plans of stopping, not until I know I'm safe. And if that means walking back to Luxburn, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs a hold of me, however, fingers digging deep into my shoulder, and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes, and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but did something happen? Are you all right?
This is right.
Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. It's a sudden, impulsive thing to do, and had I been in better condition, I wouldn't have even dared of doing such a thing. But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't, her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She's intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realized that I'm no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream about what I've seen, but like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I'd seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination. Yet, I can still feel her nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry. I have you.
A lie. But a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by a dead girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. I quickly back away as I clear my throat and nod my thanks.
I think I've had enough looking around. If it's all right with you and Mr. Wright, I'll meet you outside.
If you're sure, I'll have the car started. Do you need assistance heading downstairs?
I'm all right, ma'am. Just go on ahead and I'll be right there.
It seems to placate her worries, though only for a brief second. Before she heads down, I don't miss the concerned glance that she shoots my way, hidden quickly under another smile. I won't begrudge her for it. That worry. The look on my face must have been a strange enough sight on its own. Even I'm still reeling from whatever that was. Her voice still whispers in my ears. After all these years, she's still... No, Marianne. Shaking my head of the thoughts, I drag in a breath and follow shortly after Mrs. Wright. Whatever's happened in the past, it's long gone. Only memories now. And those are things I can no longer bring back. It's already dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we're only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars above us. The sight of them helps me compose myself much more than several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two still stand out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eyes up to the stars. And Mr. Wright, arms crossed, has his eyes down on the ground. It's the crunch of grass under my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time. What took you so long? A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
I actually thought the house was going to swallow us all up at one point in time.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons. Marianne doesn't seem the sort to idle.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job?
We are.
I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
I glanced back towards the mansion, knowing what I had seen there, or rather who I thought I saw there, because there's just no way. Not to mention how I acted towards Mrs. Wright, for goodness' sake. I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses, and say I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old, sick father. Just pay the fine, which is probably outrageous for a contract like this, and let it go. I should turn it down, but for some obstinate reason, I can't. In the same manner that I haven't let go of her, of the regret that's shadowed me since this day. As much as I hate to admit it, even to myself, seeing her again, the mischievous glint in her eyes and those loose tendrils of her hair curled around her forehead, is something I've terribly missed. And now that it's here, almost within arm's reach, My father would tell me, sometimes you should simply go through with it, consequences be damned. And well, I don't really have any logical reason to say no. At least, not something a client like the Wrights would want to hear from a professional designer.
It's certainly an interesting project. You can be sure I'm seeing it through the end.
Such dedication! Oh, I do love the determination.
You were always determined like that, weren't you?
Hearing her voice once again sends a chill running down my back. I can't wait for this day to be over. From the mansion and through Anselm, I rode with them in silence. But as soon as we hit city proper, I asked to be dropped off and bid them a good night. I thought it'd be best if I didn't stay too long in confined spaces with either Mr. or Mrs. Wright. Both of them seemed to cause me serious trouble, and if the project had been any less interesting or grand, I would have dropped it without a second thought. Would have. Should have. Won't. I assure them that my place isn't far off, and I have to fight off the urge to roll my eyes and groan when whiskey throws me a little smirk. But even in my own home, peace is elusive, as is sleep. I lie awake, thinking of what I saw in that mansion, of who I saw. If I so much as hear a single whisper from her, if I so much as see a wisp of her hair, I'm afraid I'll go mad. But none of that happens, and it makes me feel hollow. For 2 nights, I've had trouble sleeping. But it's only one morning, and when fatigue has already let me rest, that I'm reminded of what terrifies me so. In my restless dreams, I see that mirror, the one in the study, and in it I see her, and I see them. Lorraine and Hannah. Hannah and Lorraine.
Poor, pathetic Marianne. Work, work, work. She'll work herself to death.
See, she doesn't listen. That's all she did. Look at what happened to me.
And they talk among themselves with cruel smiles and venomous tongues. Or rather, to themselves. 2 heads, 1 body. A horrible mockery of those women, as if they were one and the same.
More's the pity. Life goes on and goes out, and she doesn't even see it.
Do you think she'll even realize when she's kicked the bucket herself?
When they say a person has a hard time telling when they're in a dream, it's true often enough. Even with this bizarre sight, even with the obvious implication that this isn't real, I can't help but feel distressed.
Likely. Is that any way to live at all? She might as well be dead.
Cruel fate that she's alive and I'm... well...
Though they speak into each other's ear, tones low and hushed, I can still hear them as clear as day. Their whispers pervade the air, heavy and oppressive. They bury and dig into my head like tiny maggots, worming their way into my skull. It's only then that they take notice of my presence. Yikes, they're both staring at us now. Eyes turned toward me, and I can only feel small under their scrutiny. Caricature smiles etch on their faces, mimicking each other grotesquely.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Oh my!
Have you been looking at us? Spying? How scandalous. Such a naughty girl.
I'm sure you were just waiting for something lewd to happen, weren't you?
You know she will not admit it. She thinks it wrong. You've said it so yourself.
Yes. She thought me wrong, impure, abnormal, because I loved her.
My breath hitches, and I open my mouth to protest, but they stop me, screeching. The mirror that holds them cracks, spidering lines across its surface.
Do not lie. We know the gluttonous thoughts you try to deny, girl. All those desires you bury beneath that sickening guilt. You act the martyr when you turn the bed you lie in into your own hedonistic hell. You are nothing but a tainted soul with filth-stained flesh held together by falsehood and pride.
They look livid, and when it looks like they would lunge, I wake, feeling like the wind has been knocked out of me. With a groan, I squint, and a certain fluff ball sitting on my chest looking as pleased as Punch. She is the overlady of the cats, queen of despair and destruction of nice furniture. Though I can't stay mad at her majesty because it feels like she did something good this time. I was having a nightmare, but I can't even remember what it was about. Trying to recall leaves a terrible pit in my stomach. Maybe it's better that I don't remember.
Good morning, Baruthiel. Who's the good kitty? Are you hungry? Is that why you woke me up?
A content purr comes from my dear sweet before she jumps off the bed and trots towards the kitchen. On the other hand, it takes me a bit more before I roll out of bed and start my day. Mornings before work is always a quiet affair. Shower first, then a mug of coffee and a bowl of oats. Sometimes I do stretches. I always check my work email. The Wrights will be moving into the mansion today. I don't think the paperwork is officially done yet, but it isn't too far-fetched to say, or to think that they were allowed to start their move, despite that. Rich people like them will always find ways to get what they want, after all.
I'll be leaving you again today, Beth. So you behave and make sure not to shred up my new covers, okay? And don't worry, I didn't forget tomorrow is Black Cat Day, so I'll throw you a party. But only if you behave like a proper lady.
She barely gives me a glance as I say that before going back to her own food. Cats. Still better than humans most of the time. Too bad I have to work with humans. The place is already busy as soon as I get there. The foreman, one that I've recommended to the Wrights for his work ethic, is as early as usual. Already he's instructing men here and there with the bigger loads. I have no chance to talk to him as Mrs. Wright appears and greets me with a smile.
Mrs. Wright, I hope everything has been to your liking thus far.
Good morning, Marianne. It has been delightful, and these men have been very helpful. Look at all this. It's so busy here. I'm getting tired just looking at them go.
No complications so far with the movers or the previous owners of the mansion, I hope?
If anything, the only one being problematic is Luke, if I'm to be honest. He can be such a diva, but I do like that about him.
She stops, looking up at the upper landing where Mr. Wright comes through with two other movers in the mirror from the study.
Oh, do be careful with that mirror. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt because of broken glass. Why are you even having it carried around?
Oh? You did say you didn't want the mirror, and I keep getting distracted by it.
He's so vain. He probably thinks this game's about him.
If I'm going to turn the study into my office, I'd rather not have it there. Where can we put this?
Well, you are not putting it in our room. Why don't you go, I don't know, put it in the wine cellar for now? We can figure out if we'll store it in the attic or somewhere else later, yes?
You heard her, boys. To the cellar it goes. Mush!
Oh, that sounds like a terrible place to put it. Movers bring down the mirror one step at a time, and no matter how much the man tells them to hurry, an unsettling feeling grows in my stomach as I see our reflection in the bloody thing. And I look away, not wishing to risk anything. If I see Lorraine's image in the mirror now, I wouldn't know what to do. I don't have the luxury of privacy right now, and I'm not going to break down in front of these people. As soon as they go into the kitchen, I realize I'm holding my breath. I let out a sigh of relief when I think nobody is looking, and I go back to the task at hand. It'll be a terribly busy day, and there's no need for me to even think of anything else. I talk with the foreman, fill him in which room is which. Seems I'm doomed not to get any significant work done without being interrupted when it comes to these particular clients, however.
Marianne, dear, have you had breakfast yet? Well, I do believe it would be considered brunch at this hour.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Wright.
You must join me. Johans has already been breaking in the kitchen, as they say. I do not see the others settling down for a meal anytime soon. Someone might as well enjoy the food while it's hot. And that someone might as well be us.
I should say no. I really must say no. But the way she smiles at me makes it difficult to do so. Look at how ridiculous I'm being, acting like a silly, nervous schoolgirl with a crush. It's just brunch, and who am I to say no to a client? It would be impolite to do so. It's not like I'm going to agree because of anything other than propriety. I'm not agreeing just because she batted her pretty eyelashes at me.
If you insist.
It really isn't any of those. But it's something about her eyes, rather. She looks like she needs a good talk. A friend. And although I'm not supposed to be chummy with my client, there's no harm in pretending, right? Of course, I've been wrong on many occasions before. Maybe there's plenty of harm in pretending that I care. Because pretending I care might lead to actually caring. Being alone in the same room as the missus leaves me reeling, as I find myself paying too much attention to her. It seems so borderline unhealthy how much I'm getting obsessed, even if it's just by looking. And it's the little, insignificant things that I notice, like the way she plays with her hair, how she smooths down her dress.
Up, higher, come on now.
Whiskey's annoying voice in the other room helps pull me back to the ground. I'm just looking, aren't I? I know that someone like her wouldn't even look at someone like me. Still, there's some time to turn around this bad decision.
I'd really like to thank you for inviting me to breakfast, Mrs. Wright. But I already ate, so I should really go back to work.
Nonsense! You arrived so early. You must not have gotten a proper meal. Sit. Sit! I'd situate us in the dining hall, but it is a mess right now.
Her concern is sweet, as is her smile. But I'm really not here for idle chit-chat, something I keep forgetting. We're both distracted when the food arrives, and it's enough for me to stay, at least until the meal is over. No more, no less, just to be polite. Thankfully, the conversation steers into a topic I'm comfortable with. Work. This goes on for a bit, and I can't be more relieved. Most people don't understand, calling me a workaholic, but I choose to work in a field I'm enthusiastic about. So what if my career is also my hobby?
But no, really, how have you liked it so far?
Oh, it has been wonderful, believe me. Everything is going smoothly too. It has been a long time since I've worked on something on this grand a scale. Nowadays, everyone is about condos and flats, living in the city where every room is an identical box. Believe me, this is very refreshing.
We lived in a condo before this, Marianne.
I didn't mean any insult.
It's fine, sweetie. Look at you, all frazzled. I was just pulling your leg. Luke wanted that penthouse when we got married, and you can thank him for purchasing this place as well.
It's interesting. That may be one of the first times that I've seen it happen directly, but we played this conversation from the other side as Hana, and we chose to make that joke. We chose to pull her leg a little. Wait, doesn't she own the house? I'm pretty sure. I have no business with it, though. It's theirs to hash out. But apparently, the momentary confusion had been visible on my face.
Don't be fooled. I'm just the treasury. I wouldn't be able to make a purchase this grand without his seal of approval.
I see.
That's it. That's all you have to say.
Well, yes. What else is there to it? Without warning, this nice friendly chat devolved into something horrible. Something sad.
But I really don't know what to say, Mrs. Wright. We were talking of no topic in particular, and...
Luke. We were talking about Luke.
About him not eating breakfast with you?
About him treating me as if I were some treasury.
Despite my general dislike of the upper class, I sometimes feel pity for them. They may have all the money in the world where material things aren't a problem, but they don't even see what they've become, or they've ended up, or what they've done most of the time. And they're shut in by their own trap, forced to play along with society's expectations, and do anything to stay where they are and keep what they have. A world where even people feel or are treated like they are mere possessions. When someone's at the top, the only way for them to go is down. I've worked with many Hanas and Lukes and Whiskeys, but I've never been one of them. I don't pretend to understand the world any deeper than that. I merely know what I've witnessed before. She looks lost, speechless at how she's betrayed herself. My pity for the likes of her returns. Nothing but pity moves me as I speak before she can say anything else that might ruin or break her.
I won't speak a word, Mrs. Wright. Not only am I contractually obliged to, it would also go against my principles. This is no one else's business but your own, and it should be kept between the two of you. and whoever you wish to seek counsel from.
Please, Marianne. You have to understand. These sort of affairs, if anyone were to know this, they could just twist it and we'll be ruined. All I ask for is your silence on the matter.
The way she practically begs me to keep quiet about it is disheartening. I have no plans about speaking about anything I hear, especially if it's about their private affairs. But the way she looks at me, the way she just expects some sort of fallout because of this, makes my heart clench.
Well, I'm keeping that information confidential as well.
It's not like I have any other choice, do I?
Thank you.
When the last of the food and drink is gone, the door opens, as if on cue.
Madam, the photographer from Luxury Living is here.
This was a wonderful meal, Marianne. You're free to return to your duties. I must excuse myself.
It was my pleasure. And thank you for the food as well.
She stands up to leave, and all I want to do is reassure her again, to prove that I'm someone she can trust. So when she looks back my way, I didn't fight the smile that found its way on my face. I feel giddy. But the feeling dies down afterwards as I sober up. Oh well, back to work. Soon enough, I find myself drawn to the kitchen where the Wright butler has returned to. He's already claimed the space and is telling movers to back off, and none dares to question his proclamation for
My kitchen. No kinder allowed. Little men running around with knives especially.
My kitchen.
We do not want any accidents to happen now, do we? Good? Good.
I mean, it is a knife-wielding German standing there. I don't think anybody would be insane enough to refuse his request.
I hope I meet the age restriction, or at least the height restriction, because I'm asking to be let in here.
You are allowed inside, McCulloch, but not the little ones.
A shake of my head and a roll of my eyes is all I give him. It's not like I'm going to be of any trouble to him. I just need to look around, get my bearings. The breakfast had been distraction enough. I don't even want to think about what we just talked about. I just need to get my head straight and get back to work. The movers work efficiently, even when they're left alone, and they do quick work of their responsibilities. The head foreman comes, standing in the doorway to consult me on this or that, and I have to go out and help every now and then. But they pretty much have everything up to standards. They skip lunch entirely, not even realizing when they do so. Nevertheless, all is well as the butler gets to heating up the leftover bubble and squeak from breakfast, and makes a generous batch of fish and chips for them. Most likely simple in comparison to what he serves to the Wrights, but well done nonetheless.
That smells good. Want to wrap up some for me to go?
It's an idle observation more than anything, my thoughts, as they are, preoccupying me.
If there are any left, one can't go wrong with fish and chips. Everyone loves them, even my husband, and he's American.
And he's American. I really do hate getting up so close and personal with my clients. It's a distraction. Shouldn't she be all judgmental about that? She's all worried about the fact that she had feelings for a woman, and that a woman she has feelings for a woman. Had, anyway. But she doesn't seem to have a problem here. It's so obvious to me that I've gotten my priorities all wrong, and I can't help but think about what I've heard, what I've learned about the Wright couple. These things have a way of creeping up on a person. Thoughts, ideas, whether they're fact or fiction. They creep up and fester, crawl and writhe in a way that twists. I hear giggling, delighted and mocking. They creep up, and the sensation of fingers ghosting briefly on my arm causes me to freeze and hiss. King Trash Panda, are those the accepted terms there? Yaoi and Yuri?
Don't!
I half expect her to be there.
Oh, no need to scream bloody murder.
When it comes to visual novels, yes. Well, I have learned new words today then, King Trash Panda. Thank you for that.
It's just me. Quiet down before you break glass.
But it's just whiskey.
Don't do that again. Ever.
I don't like being scared, though I don't believe in the likes of spooks. Really? She doesn't believe in the likes of spooks. 2 days ago, you had a bitch jump out of the glass and try and pull you through it. Today, you're like, I don't believe in the likes of spooks. Anyway, I don't like being scared, though I don't believe in the likes of spooks. Being startled is not on the top of the list of things Marianne likes. Lucky for him, I have nothing within reach, or he would have gotten on friendly terms with something, like a rolling pin.
What was with that reaction? Were you really scared? Has Johans been telling you ghost stories? He just loves to scare people.
I see. Yahweh is boys' love, generally written by women for women, and Yuri is lady love, generally written by men for men. That makes sense in a way. You have two objects of your own affection and nobody getting in the way. On the other hand, it means that you don't have a surrogate for yourself in the scene.
Isn't that right, Brother Gurium?
But the butler's expression is unreadable. I hardly see any emotion on his face to begin with since I started working for the Wrights, aside from vague amusement. There must have been something there, though, judging from Mr. Wright's own content look. The expression on Mr. Wright's face is almost cruel. But neither of them spoke, even as Johan leaves the room to serve the workers their late lunch.
So, now that we're alone, Marianne, what are you so jumpy for?
I was just thinking about all the urban legends the movers have been telling me about this place.
Don't tell me you believe in that tosh. They're nothing but tales made up to scare children. Timmy, Billy, don't you dare go up to that big mansion and get in trouble there. The ghosts are going to get you.
Luke, I'm really hoping the ghosts come and get you. Just gonna say.
That's a boring way to look at it, but that's usually what it is anyway, no? Like I said, I was just thinking.
It would be a relief, actually, if those rumors of this place being haunted were true. That means I'm not going insane. Hearing, let alone seeing a dead person isn't exactly the symptoms of a healthy mind. Sure, it means there would be such things as ghouls and goblins, but at least I'd be sane. On the other hand, there would actually be a dead girl walking around.
Excuse the inane question, Mr. Wright. You haven't noticed anything weird here?
A simple enough question on the surface, yet I notice the man stiffen as the question leaves my mouth. I wouldn't have noticed it if I weren't watching his reaction intently, but in his eyes I see something dangerous.
It depends on your definition of the word weird. Are we still on the topic of this place being haunted? Because no, things have not started to fly around and we have yet to require an exorcism. I don't think my head would like to do the whole 180-degree turn thing.
I believe that Hana has already requested an exorcism.
Well, maybe that, but no strange people?
Aside from my usually weird butler and all the weird men traipsing around touching my things? No, not really. Why do you ask? Have you noticed anyone strange while you were here? Because you must report it to Johans and he'll have security handle it. But these reports better not be about ghosts and things that go bump in the night. I don't want to waste manpower on the boogeyman or senseless witch hunts.
The boogeyman.
I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Wright. But no, it's nothing like that. I guess the mansion is just strange for me. It's a unique project.
Well, King Trash Panda, you don't have the same hang-ups that Marianne has.
No strange men or women lurking about then?
A dead teenager would technically qualify as strange. But yeah, the whole I see dead things isn't going to go over well.
Not that I know of. But I'll inform Johans immediately if something comes up.
I'm serious, Mint. You see anything, anyone suspicious, and you report it. Immediately.
Serious, Mint. In a way that's kind of cute that they have pet names for each other. Like, there's a weird level of earnestness in him using that name.
I think that goes without saying.
The concern... Wow. Way to go, Google Translate, who is apparently handling the localization for these people. The concern he have on the talk of security is quickly gone. His arrogant, smug smirk returns, if a bit subdued. Whatever smarmy remark or innuendo he has at the ready never comes, though, as voices from the dining hall ring out.
Is this a full-time job for you then?
Nah, I just freelance mostly, for magazines, newspapers, and events. So you can't really call it a full-time job. It's fun and it puts food on the table, but it's not what I really want to do. At least not all the time.
That would be the magazine photographer, I presume. As always, Mr. Reich talks in such a kind and cheery fashion, no matter who she's talking with. It certainly puts people at ease around her, and sounds like it's working on the photographer, too. Hearing them, though, seems to put Mr. Wright in a sour mood. At least if his small scowl has anything to go by. So we can either try and lighten the mood, or we can ask if he's all right. I mean... I'm still determined to try and make this lady human, so let's ask if he's all right, even though that will probably make him like us more.
Hey, are you all right there, Whiskey? You're looking like you need a serious drink.
Yeah, of course it did.
What is it that you want to do then?
Films. Documentaries mostly. But cinematography is a lot more difficult than photography, right? I was working on this thing, actually.
I'm fine. Just a bit winded from all that moving about. It's been a long day.
And the day's not over yet. So if you can excuse the bloodness, you either shape up to help or ship out back to your room and let us do the rest of the work.
He hesitates, eyes locked firmly on the door that led to the dining hall. Even now, we can still hear Mrs. Wright and the photographer chit-chat between shots.
It's not my place to say this, but she really does seem to care a lot about you, you know?
There's no need to remind me of that.
A strange smile appears on his face before he shuts his eyes and sighs. Yeah, well, maybe he doesn't care for her as much as she cares for him.
Tell the workers that you're all dismissed early.
That's nice and all, Whiskey, but we really shouldn't just take off. Delays aren't a good thing when it comes to big projects like these. The sooner we tackle certain issues, the better.
And I trust you can take care of these issues another day. Don't make me ask again, Mint. Just tell the others they can go home early, and to not worry, they'll still get paid the remaining hours.
I don't know what prompted this. With the air he's putting on, though, I know better than to meddle and prod further. Besides...
Fine, you're the boss.
Walking out of the kitchen, I just accept the fact where whatever he says will go while under his roof. Mrs. Wright and the photographer are still far too busy in conversation to notice me, even as I make my way through the dining hall. Besides, I didn't want to ruin their fun.
Well, it wasn't really a big thing. People didn't like Blue Fonzie very much.
People don't like a film about colors. I suppose they would have liked Blue Bibby a lot more.
Going to the foyer has me stumble upon the family butler once more, who raises a brow at my presence.
And where are you off to in a hurry, Miss McCulloch? The foreman is looking for you.
The Bratwurst wants us off the clock. He's dismissing us early because of... Oh, I don't know. He just wants us out of here.
I'll go and call a cab for you then. It would be for the best that you leave when he asks you to.
I don't doubt it. My ride back to the city doesn't take too long to get here. Granted, there were some difficulties at first because the driver didn't know where the Ermengarde mansion is. He tried to have us hand over the GPS coordinates from our smartphones or some other technobabble I didn't care about, and the butler didn't understand. As soon as we told him that it's that haunted mansion over in Anselm Village, he knew just the place. And finally headed over, albeit with some reservation. All the way back to the city, the driver keeps complaining about that place giving him the willies. Gives me the willies, too. Would have loved to snap at him. But as soon as the thought occurs to me, another blossoms in the forefront of my mind. One that somehow bothered me greatly. More than my exasperation over whiskey in this project, or wanting all of it to stop. There's been no Lorraine whispering in my ears today. Worse, I find myself searching for it. Searching for her. Loose ends. Fucking bloody loose ends everywhere. I thought I've already moved past this years ago, and it does nothing to help me curb my frustration. If anything, it only ensures that I want to stiff drink. And where else do I go to drink? Tuesdays are for karaoke, and Wednesdays, improv. Usually it's these 4 guys who did hilarious games. One with the Irish drinking songs are always a crowd favorite. Though I love a good laugh, stand-up comedy isn't my thing, and without Cam or Haruna or any other distractions, I end up drinking a lot more this time. And when there's several bottles of beer in me, I get really, really embarrassing.
Hey! G! Psst! G, come over here. I need you for something.
It's a good thing that the bartender's a nice fellow. I'd probably been kicked out of other places by now. Or worse. If push comes to shove, all he would do is give me an easy smile and a shake of his head, even when he's attending to other customers. Just like now.
Give me a moment, will ya? I gotta go check on her.
Oh, I knew that voice. That voice is the same one that the inspector was using earlier. He's some Asian guy. And I'm pretty sure I've seen him here a couple of times before, although he never talks to anyone else except for G. The girls used to be all over him too, but he always turned them away.
I'll be here. You go do that before she falls over.
Asian Joe. Wow. Asian Joe.
All right. What is it?
Yep, no, that's actually the same sprite with a little mustache and the same voice as the police inspector. Got it. All right.
Do you need someone to help you get home?
Bartender, pour the wine.
I think that's enough alcohol for you, little missy. I'm cutting you off.
A whine comes from the back of my throat as he pulls my bottle away. I have no hope of getting them back once they're behind the counter. Even in my drunken mind, I don't dare hop over it for them. Because what little sense I have left knows I'd sooner take a floor dive than succeed in wresting a bottle from a sober man. Of course, that doesn't stop me from trying to reach out with my arms like a stupid idiot anyway. He smiles and shakes his head just like I knew he would, before going back to the other guy.
Right now, where were we? How you holding up, boy?
With no drink and no one to really chat with, I would have gone home, or gone to sleep on the bar right then and there. But I'm not ready to stand up and try and trek back home just yet.
Same old. I'm still on the Luxborn firm case.
Those blokes they talk about being in dark suits, whisking people into the night or some shit and all that. Didn't the media call it some ridiculous name in the morning news?
What is it this time? Wait, don't answer that. They've called it a lot of things. As long as people don't start running around claiming they're the Illuminati. So, what have you got for me this time, G? Anything good?
Slow down there. You haven't even told me what sort of dealing dosh we got.
So, as we can tell, it seems that our good bartender here is some sort of informant for the Detective Ashton.
Who are you looking into this time?
Their talk would have interested me, would have kept my attention, if I gave a damn. Their talk would have interested me if I found it all interesting. But in my current state, I can barely give 2 fucks about the things going on around me. All these words are just buzzing, barely surfacing from the sea of sounds that is the pub. And it would have stayed that way, perhaps even drowned, if I didn't hear his name.
Luke Wright. You know the guy. And don't pretend like you don't, G. It takes a special kind of ignorant not to know who he is.
That smug blonde who likes throwing round his money. He was just here a few days ago, as a matter of fact. Great tipper, if you think him just dumping a wad of cash on the counter after having too much whiskey counts as tipping. Why are you asking? He dirty?
You have no idea, G. He's probably the worst sort you can imagine.
Luke fucking Wright. Fucking whiskey. Even without him around, I'm still hearing about the guy. What the absolute fuck? Despite this, I find myself getting up and sauntering over to join them before I pipe up.
Is this smack talk about Luke fucking Wright I'm hearing, eh?
Private conversation here, lady.
There's only amusement on G's face. The Asian guy, he starts to look ticked off as hell.
Don't worry, Holmes, she's clean. And she might be able to help you with your, predicament.
Course. A drunk's just stumbled through here with what I need. Get real, G. No offense, lady, but you're smashed.
I know, right? Nothing beats being drunk after a hard day's work. Especially when you're working for Mr. Luke Wright.
So, she works for the guy? Doesn't that make her, I don't know, suspect?
See, have a little faith in me, why don't ya? I don't have much, and you might as well have something to go off. You're the one who was so desperate to come running to me for business.
Yoo-hoo! Still right here, fellas. 5'11". Can't miss me. Unlike Shorty over here.
She's actually way more fun when drunk. And normally I'm not a huge super fan of drunk people, because most of them are not.
What's it that mad look? You want to dance, boy? You don't look like you can bust a groove. Maybe a leg, but with that fancy coat of yours.
Bust a leg? To add insult to injury, I move directly behind him and use the top of his head as an armrest. But when he shakes me off, I plop into the seat right next to him.
Don't try me. You can hardly stay on your feet. We don't want to ruin your fancy coat, do we?
Ah, children, the both of you. But you're still standing after all that, are you? Matt, you see this giantess? She's a legendary regular here. Been treated like there's no tomorrow. I'm a bit jealous. Can't do that anymore or my liver will give out on me. Good with the mic, too. Don't see you much recently, but I guess you're always busy, aren't you? You're some fancy designer or something, if I remember correctly.
Wait, I know you. You were at the open house for the mansion.
Yeah, that's right. Marianne McCulloch. I'm a famous interior designer extraordinaire. Ooh, that rhymes. Anyway, you guys were talking about that weenie Luke Wright, right?
Or something. Can't really talk about it. I don't even know if I can trust you, even if G said you're clean. But anything would be of help.
Well, I don't gossip about my clients, if that's all there is to this.
You wanted to gossip about him a few minutes ago, Marianne.
Man, I feel bad about the way she's like, oh, I keep confidential. Drunk Marianne doesn't keep confidential shit.
And that was the beer talking, not Marianne.
See, Marianne keeps secret. Beer likes to talk.
You won't mind if we ask the beer a few questions then?
Maybe. Depends on who's asking and what they're asking. But seriously, that guy is abso-fucking-lutely frustrating. One moment, he's an absolute dickhead. And then he's acting like an actual decent human being the next. I just can't figure him out. I can't imagine how that pretty wife of his can put up with him. If I were her, I'd dump his flat arse straight up.
And I'm not just saying that because I think Hannah's pretty or anything. Luke is a catch too. They both are. but I really cannot, for the love of all things holy, see how they work out together.
So, Luke Wright, have you noticed anything strange about him while you were working with him? Anything peculiar? Of note?
You're the one being peachy right about now, Holmes. But nah, nothing that comes to mind off the top of my head. He's just like most rich, smarmy arseholes and then some.
A giggle bubbles up, and I press my cheek against the cool countertop with my eyes shut tight, just because. Eventually, cracking one eye open in case they thought I fell asleep, I grin at Holmes.
So, Holmes, I'm guessing you're some private detective or something. Is it Hannah? Did she pay you to look if he's been cheating or some such?
Hannah's the wife, right? What about her? How is she?
How is she or how is she? Well and good. Definitely the nicer of the two and sexy as sin to boot.
Oh my.
Not a private detective then. Are you from one of them tabloids wanting to know if the Luke Wright doesn't know how to put his pants on right? Pants. I'd take the pants off of...
Ah, here we go. Slipping. I haven't been this drunk in such a long time. It's a miracle I've been coherent for as long as I have been right
I'm asking
now.
you if you've noticed any odd behavior from her.
Odd behave... You what? I wonder how she'd be drunk. I can just imagine her like the giggly sort.
Let me get a drink, you guys, real quick. Be right back. There we go, a delicious beverage and a small piece of cheese. Wonderful. All right, back to it.
What do you think?
These are serious questions, Marianne. Lives might just be at stake here.
What do you expect? She's smashed.
Why am I even doing this? This is getting me nowhere, G. She's not a reliable source. The chief, let alone the courts, aren't going to take the word of a drunk. This will be dismissed, and I might be in trouble if they try to argue that I coerced a testimony out of her. This is a fucking train wreck.
You're a fucking train wreck now, if you ask me.
You can't even recognize the chief when he's standing in front of you.
Maybe it's about time you apply the brakes and stop for a bit.
The wave of despair that comes over the both of them is palpable. If feelings had a taste, it would be bitterer than the beer I'm full of. And it gets me to thinking, though thinking doesn't get me far with too much shite in my system.
You know that's not an option. Thanks for being patient, McCullough. Good luck with your work on that mansion.
Speaking of that mansion, there's something going on in that place. Something. As och day! No wonder Mr. Wright likes it so much. It's as fishy as he is. Rotten bloke. Maybe that Santos girl is really onto something, eh? Suspicious shite, I'm telling you. Explains why she's so reluctant.
What do you mean that Santos girl is onto something?
Before I get another word out, there's hands on my shoulders and everything starts to spin. I quickly slap his hands away the best I can and send him the foulest look I can muster.
Take your hands off me, pipsqueak. I'm not a lady who's shaken or stirred unless you want me up-chucking on your pretty hair. But it's just like I said. Are you sure you aren't brain damaged or deaf? Santos girl from BRC showed us this creepy letter. You know, just like those spam stuff you get in your emails. And we thought it was some joke or that the girl was just a bit too green to handle a big sale like that. You should have seen the look on their faces when they saw it. Whiskey, that's Luke fucking right, you get me? And the missus didn't look too happy either. I should have taken a picture and posted it everywhere.
Wow! Beer doesn't give a shit about confidentiality, even a little bit.
When rich snobs give you that face, no wonder the Santos girl went all mental on us. Working with them does that, you know? I think I'm about to. I'm not mental yet, am I? Anyway, just like I said, in that man... Hey, you okay? Holmes? You're looking a bit shaky yourself there.
And he really is pale. Paler than before, at least. I can see the gears turning in his head. Suddenly, he shoves a card in my hand. Well, here we go. Confirmation he really does work for the police department. Luxburn Police Department. Ashton Frey, Detective Inspector, CID. On his name, Ashton Frey, and his number. Adengo Banwa. But he has second thoughts as he grabs it from me and slips it into my pocket.
You're cute, pretty boy. But I prefer blondies.
She really does.
Well, you're not exactly my type either, lady. But listen to me. If something comes up, don't do anything rash. If you think you're in danger or if you see anything suspicious, call me and the authorities as soon as possible. You understand me? That's 99...
I know what the damn emergency number is.
Right, 999. Good. Anyway, I have to run. See you, G.
The guy's quick on his feet, already up and at him as soon as the numbers leave his lips. Watching him as he maneuvers through the crowd of other pubgoers is enough to tire me out. Fast as he can, he's at the door and throws us a smile, and that's all we get before he's gone. Just like that.
Oi, what about your drink, boy? I'll go put it on your tab then.
Holmes boy always like that, G?
Holmes boy.
Pretty much. But what about you? I suppose I'll put your drinks on your tab too. Don't want you to spill your wallets when you look like you're close to spilling yourself.
She is a legendary regular.
Yeah, and if it's fine by you, I think I'll go take a bit of a cat nap here. Just for a sec or two.
Go right ahead. I'll wake you when I close up shop.
Mumbling a sleepy thanks, I doze off on the spot, face pressed on the counter. Already, I dread the pain I'll have for sleeping in such a position. But when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Not that I can get much sleep to begin with. Do people ever have the feeling that they're working on something they really enjoy, but still, it eventually tires them out? Because honestly, I've been feeling like this.
You have certainly exceeded expectations, Marianne. Everything looks so marvelous, and in such a short time, too.
If she would stop drinking to the point of liver failure every night, maybe she would get some good sleep. Though moments like this make all the hard work worth it. Definitely.
Well, I can't take all the credit. People have certainly been enthusiastic about the idea of working on the right mansion. There won't be any more problems unless Mr. Wright has any more objections about the second bedroom.
Oh, no. We proceed with that room as planned.
You know what I haven't looked at in a long time is the branching tree. So we're getting pretty close to the end of the chapter here. And that's good. because I'm kind of like, Jeebus. It's been a little while, you know what I mean? Anyway.
I already agreed to him having his greenhouse and his vineyard and his stables. He may as well let me have this one thing.
We're only about halfway done, but the honest satisfaction on a client's face is enough for me to push through. Let's face it, in between my exasperation at Mr. Wright's antics and her, I've been burning the candles at both ends. I can't even close my eyes without seeing a dead girl's face. Dead girl. Dead. She's dead. I have to keep reminding myself of that, burying my feelings as deep as they've buried her body. 6 feet under. I shouldn't waste so much time on someone who's supposed to be gone. I've wasted so many years thinking about her already. There should be no need to bother myself with the dead, when I should be bothering myself with the living. Too bad the living are usually as complicated, if not more, than the ghosts of the past.
But don't you have a party?
Yes. But Luke's just being a sweetie, you see.
No.
That friend he's visiting, he's having marital problems and he's just trying to cheer him up.
It's even more complicated when the living in question is a pair of rich and famous socialites way past their honeymoon phase. And I've been somehow roped into being a relationship counselor.
They've been married for a long time and they've hit a... how do they say it? A rough patch. His wife has a drinking problem and can be very neglectful. The poor thing really does his best to be a good husband, but it's never enough for her. Sometimes I think it's the years. Maybe it's been so long that they've lost that romantic spark. What do you think?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I need to ask. This is about you and Mr. Wright, isn't it?
Suppose it is. What would you tell me?
Then, I tell you it's none of my business. I tell you that I don't want to meddle. But, if the troubled husband with the neglectful wife asked me for my honest opinion, I'd say that he shouldn't base his happiness and his self-worth on someone else. Maybe he should try being independent for a while. See what it's like when he isn't trying to please someone else and doing things for himself. Everyone's supposed to be their own man or woman, right? A bit of breathing room never hurt anyone. We shouldn't let our fear control our lives.
Why she thinks a single woman like me would be the best source of relationship advice is beyond me. Still, I talk and answer to the best of my abilities. Without realizing it, I'm already pouring out a part of me that I had thought were long gone. I'd like to believe my words will be of some help to Mrs. Wright. If I'm honest, though, they're of some help to me. Like some weight has been taken off my shoulders. Lorraine.
I really should handle what's left of the work.
You won't be attending the party? Oh, you really must, Marianne.
The weight of what happened hasn't left me yet, did it? Maybe...
I'll try to stay and chat. Maybe grab a few bites and a drink, but I can't be around for the entirety of the event. My apologies. Busy, busy, busy.
You must stay a while. I'd love for you to meet some of my friends, and they're ever so excited to meet you. You need to say hello to the Lees, at least. If it wasn't for them, I'd never even heard of you.
Maybe it's about time I changed that.
We'll see. So, if I can be excused?
Certainly. You'll have to excuse me as well. I must attend to the party before any early birds arrive. Because, believe me, they will throw a fuss if things aren't ready, even when they're not supposed to be here until an hour later.
Though I shouldn't dwell on the dead, I shouldn't just callously forget about them, too. Saying that I have work left to do is an easy enough excuse to make. I know how other people see me. They see someone so obsessed with her craft that she would so easily miss things like a party for it. Outside the parlor, people hurry about here and there in preparation for the Wrights' grand housewarming party. None spare me a glance as I slip past them, each working on their appointed roles and not daring to slack off while they work for what is probably the most powerful couple in Luxburn. I make it into the kitchen with ease, the wine cellar being my final destination. Huh. That's a little terrifying. I'm relatively sure, let's see if we can find out, that it's on this day, the 28th. Yes. They talk about the party, we talk about who baby daddies are and stuff like that. Was it last night maybe then? There was one night where... that's the day with the priest. There's one day where Hannah absolutely loses her shit because of stuff was in the was happening in the basement. Here we go. It's on the 29th. It's tomorrow. But when is a great task ever simple? Probably never. And it's interesting that this has become this is a scary ass wine cellar after we told them to put the mirror in there. And this is a great task, isn't it? My greatest one yet that's worthy of being called a quest. I'm not acting as Marianne McCullough, the professional interior designer, when I chose to lie about being too busy for a party. I'm Marianne McCullough, a lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma. Just thinking of it like that makes it a bit cheesy. But it helps with the fear. It helps overcome the insane thought that I'm actively seeking out something that's been plaguing me for years. I might face my worst nightmare, or I might see nothing and find my self-imagined grand quest fall flat. And who would have thought that the gatekeeper to my final quest would be somebody I thought would be a valuable ally?
Hurry up, you snails! We are on a deadline and you are wasting my time!
The butler comes from the cellar and into the kitchen, tailed by a couple of others. People who I assume are most likely chefs and bartenders. He raises a brow, seeing me just standing there by the hatch, by the trap door. It almost looks like he's going to throw me out for being in the kitchen without permission. But then he motions for the others to disperse and familiarize themselves with their surroundings. Meanwhile, he continues to stand there, preventing entry into the darkness beyond.
What are you doing here, Fraulein? This is not the place for guests or in an architect right now.
In an architect. Yeah, so interior designers.
I request you leave.
I was just looking around for any last minute things, yes?
Hey, Smeggles, what's going on?
Yes, you have been doing that a lot. Looking around, snooping about. Now is not the time for such things. If you're not careful, people might think you are up to something.
The look he gives me as he says this is almost chilling. If life was a game book, he'd probably be the true neutral warlock guarding the treasure room. A difficult opponent to beat with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in dexterity. The worst D&D stats ever, man.
Well, I'm not done yet. I actually need to go into the wine cellar. Just need a quick go at the place. So just don't mind me. I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
Go outside, enjoy the party. Bask in the praise and adulation they will no doubt shower you with when the madam speaks highly of you. Surely you've had enough of this stuffy old kitchen by now. You do not want to cause trouble. Both the Bratwurst and Hannah want this to be perfect. It would be a disservice and a disrespect to toe out of line and risk it being anything otherwise.
We called Luke the Bratwurst a while back, and it seems he's remembered and paid that forward.
And more importantly, I will be blamed for any failure that happens tonight.
His intervention almost turns me away. Maybe this is a sign I'm not meant to seek Lorraine out, but...
Please, it's really important.
15 minutes. 9, 10 minutes. Any longer and I'll pull you out of there myself. The Bratwurst will be furious if he thinks anyone is touching his precious wine without his permission.
I like that he's still calling him the Bratwurst.
Thank you. This seriously means a lot.
He steps aside, begrudgingly. At this point, it looks like there's no turning back. The cellar greets me ominously as I descend. That's a lot of wine, and large oaken barrels of it, and then the mirror hung ominously at the end. The space feels smaller, with a lot more bottles lining the wall compared to before, and knowing what might be waiting for me here makes things worse. The mirror that had been moved from the study is my goal. I did not return to it after my initial discovery, but the thought of Lorraine, and how much I want to see her again, even if it's just for one more time, keeps coming back to mind. As I walk through the cellar, I have to stop when I feel something crunch beneath my feet. Whatever few bottles were left behind here now are nothing but glass beneath my heels. Perhaps dropped by one of the many chefs the butler had escorted through here before. This is reminding me strongly of a game called Phantasmagoria. A newlywed couple moves into a grand house like this. The husband starts drinking a lot, is possessed by a ghost of somebody who's there, and tries to kill his wife. What with the drinking of Luke and the moving into the house and knowing that it's haunted, there's a little bit of the same feel. I don't know that it's going to go the same way, but don't you think there's some elements of similarity here, King Trash Panda? With how dark this place is, a person with a dark enough imagination could easily mistake it for blood. I can't help but think that it is, despite the easy, logical explanation that had come to my mind, only because of what I'm about to do. It's merely a momentary distraction as I continue to the end of the cellar where the mirror stands. Propped up on the far wall, it gleams innocently, while pretending to be a simple and ordinary mirror. How morbid to think this thing could show a person their deepest, most desperate desires and then twist it into an image so dark. And that's what I had seen that day. Though I'd heard Lorraine many times, I'd only seen her here, within its frame. I wonder if people have discovered it before. How many were wasted away in front of it, enamored, and how many were frightened away by what they saw? Yet as I stand before it now, nothing. I can barely see my own reflection in this darkness.
How does this even work? Mirror, mirror on the wall? Something? Anything?
Nothing. Touching its surface doesn't make it magically activate or anything like that. There's no sudden surge of power, and I'm not suddenly granted sight. It stays what it is. A mirror. Was Lorraine's appearance in this mirror all some sort of fever dream? Am I really that burdened with guilt and despair that my mind would eat itself in my stress and have me hallucinate such things? Either way, just going here on some crazed obsession for a girl long gone must warrant me a trip to the doctor. Already, I feel ill. After a few more moments, in the hopes that something would change, I turn around to leave. I can just go back upstairs like nothing ever happened, perhaps drop by the party for some hors d'oeuvre, and then go home and collect myself. Besides, Mrs. Wright's expecting me, and
Going to leave me again then, are you?
I stop in my tracks, but I don't turn back. I will say I don't recall seeing Marianne at the party scene. As much as it pains me, I don't look back. If I'm just hearing her again, desperately delusional, and I look back to see nothing, I don't want to give myself false hope. But when I feel fingers around my wrist pull at me, I look back in shock. My first thought is, how in God's name is this possible? And the second is, Lorraine. Her hands are cold.
Are you that mad at me that you're just going to ignore me, Marianne?
I don't know what to say, and I can only stare at her and wonder. She stands there, in the mirror, with only her arm extended outward for my sake. I look at the hand still holding my wrist, and when she sees me looking at it, she moves it so that our bare hands are intertwined, fingers weaved together. Seeing her there and feeling her touch meant I'm not crazy, though however impossible and unexplainable all this is to me right now. It just takes my breath away. Pulling her out from there is tempting, and I can imagine doing so with ease. We can be together again, Lorraine and Marianne, like nothing had ever happened. But that would all be a great big lie, wouldn't it?
What? Pack out your tongue? Don't just look at me like that. Say something.
Even if this thing were some magic portal that could bring back the dead, that doesn't erase anything. Just looking at her, still a young teenager while I'm already a grown woman, serves no other reason than to break the illusion that blinds me. I've seen her twice now, always behind the mirror. If this is real, if this isn't some delusion, then why can she only exist behind the glass?
Yeah. You have no idea how happy I am to see you. It's been so long.
You don't look happy.
I really am happy. But at the same time, I can't help but think about what happened to you.
And what does that mean? What are you saying?
She gives me this peculiar look. And before my eyes, she moves to step out of the mirror. In turn, I wrench my hand from her and take a step back, almost as if I'm afraid.
I don't know how this is possible. But whatever this is, it isn't real. You can't be real.
I'm right here, aren't I? What other proof do you need?
No. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. But even with all that, you can't be real. You just can't. I saw your body. I helped bury you. You're dead.
A deep hurt crosses her face, and it just breaks my heart in two, seeing her wear that expression.
Burying me wasn't the only thing you did. Don't you dare lie. But I'm going to be the bigger woman, aren't I? Let bygones be bygones. I'll forgive you, as long as you stay with me, Marianne. That's why you came down here, right? To find me?
That was the plan. I came down here looking for her, for closure. But this isn't just closure. This is something else entirely. I didn't think I'd be forced to make such a choice. Do I leave? Or do I stay? The smart thing is to move on. But I really want the Zack and Hana thing to happen, and I don't know if having her around with her really high relationship and interest in Hana is going to be an interference thing. But more importantly, they've been very careful not to show us any trace of Marianne past this date. Oh yeah, moving on is definitely the smart thing. But I think Marianne would stay. I mean, she's losing her mind. Her whole life has been absolutely wrecked by this girl and by what happened and her denying that the entire time. So I'm going to let her be a little crazy this time. And it's probably dumb. It's actually super dumb, but I'm tired of her, I'm tired of her denying this girl, so I really do want to stay with her. I'm getting tired of pretending, of lying to myself. And the fact that I'm admitting this to myself now, of all the times, only brings to light how Lorraine was right about me all along. I should have listened to her.
But, Lorraine, you're dead. How can we even stay together?
I know. And it's your fault, isn't it? You tore us apart.
I mean, she's been hearing voices for who knows how long. She only has a dad who doesn't even remember her.
But now, you can put us back together again.
And now that I have the choice to fix what I'd done to us, then who am I to do otherwise?
I'm so sorry. I must look like a right mess.
I'm here, Em. I'm here now, don't you worry. Come here.
It takes everything I have not to tear up at the sight of her. She reaches out and slips her fingers through mine before pulling me away from the tunnel and towards the mirror. Our reflection, a grown woman and a teenager barely past her prime, lends a bizarre light to this whole scene.
I can't imagine how you've been so alone all these years. I left you, Lorraine. I didn't mean to, but that's what I did. I don't even know if you can ever forgive me.
Don't cry. Doesn't suit your pretty face. Besides, I don't have to be alone anymore, do I? You're here for me, aren't you? You'll never leave me again, will you?
My mouth goes dry as she looks at me. That isn't the plan. This isn't closure. Yet her hand in mine makes me believe that this is real. She's real, and that's all that matters. Nothing else.
Yes, of course. I wouldn't dare leave you.
You swear you won't leave me?
Uh-oh.
I swear to God, I won't, Lorraine.
Though her smile remains, I can only describe her expression as sad. She walks around until she stands just behind me and wraps her arms around my waist. I nearly crumble with how I'm in her arms once more. And when she puts her chin up in the crook of my neck, I can feel her hot breath on my neck, and I'm filled with both joy and grief. The scent of chocolate and almonds, honey and beer surrounded me. My first taste of love. The love that I denied. It had been so bittersweet.
God's not the only one you're making promises to, Marianne. Swear it to me. Or, even better, prove it to me.
I'll stay forever with you, Lorraine. I swear it to you. How do I even prove it to you?
I wonder if it's going to be that glass that was on the floor.
Simple.
She presses something into my hand. A large glass shard from a wine bottle. Cold and sharp.
You join me.
Ooh, her face got a little creepier there. Is she suggesting that I...
Die for me.
Lorraine! That's... How can I?
How can I even do such a thing?
There's no need to be scared. I'll be here for you until the end, Marianne. Even if you hadn't done the same for me. But that's the only way I can forgive you. The only way we can be together again.
She guides my hand, raising the glass shard. Achievement unlocked. Together at last. My own hands are weak, as is my will, and I can only bare my neck to do with as she wishes. There's no reason, no self-preservation as I mindlessly welcome my own death, as if it will lead me to my salvation. I feel nothing at first other than the glass touching my skin like a caress, until a stinging sensation blooms from my neck. The pain sears and burns like nothing I've felt before, and every breath intensifies the feeling. Even if I wanted to cry out and scream, I can only cough as a slick, metallic taste coats my tongue. The most I can do beyond that is rasp out, calling for her name.
Lorraine.
Cold and weak, I grow worse by the second. I cough with each ragged breath, expelling the blood that I'm inhaling through my slit throat.
Shush now. It'll be over soon. Really soon.
There's a moment of doubt as I remember that the devil was once the most beautiful angel in heaven. That I shouldn't be deceived by such beauty. But in my final moments, all of that is soon forgotten. My mouth twitches. I can't muster even the smallest of smiles anymore. But I'll be with Lorraine. You've unlocked a memory fragment. Now that's interesting. Huh. Didn't realize there was such a thing. These look like the people from the Interesting. All right, let's see what we've got. Oh, we can't see it. All right, let's save here real quick. As that was the end of Marianne's chapter. I don't know how we'll figure out how to see a memory fragment or not. Backlog, skip, branching tree, options, controls, quit. If we can go back to the main screen, yes, we might be able to see it because there were some extras that were here. We have 18% of achievements, credits, the actual letter, the trailer, the music room. I wonder what those memory fragments are for. Maybe it's in the gallery? So we've got a number of CGs. Item sprites for all the various objects that we've seen. Backgrounds, no epilogues. We may have to beat the game in order to see those memory fragments. I don't really know. But I think this is a good time to call the stream for now. We have just played through Marianne's. That means that we are 4/7 of the way through. We only have 3 more people left to be. Rebecca's next. And then we have Ashton. And then we have Luke. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. We're definitely getting closer. I like that this is broken into nice chapters. Because one of the things about doing 999 is that it most certainly was not, and I found myself playing something like 15, 16 hours straight. And this game has significantly more narration on my part. So my voice does get a little tired out sometimes. This has been 3 hours and 31 minutes. Most of the chapters have run somewhere between 3 and 4 hours. So we have about 9 more hours left of gameplay, I would guess. We'll see. But for now, we'll go ahead and call it. I will probably be on to stream again later tonight. If not Friday the 13th, then something else. I've had some folks asking if I could get back to doing some of my roguelikes. And I think that's a good idea. I downloaded the update for Cataclysm DDA. So if not Friday the 13th, then we'll probably do some Cataclysm. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out. I will see you guys next time.